I am Adam Sowers, your game master and host, and with me is a bunch of spooky, ghosty people that are still playing this game with me. Thank you all so much. And if you all could please introduce yourselves to the audience so they can know who the heck you are.
Hello, I'm Caleb James Miller. I'm playing Dull Ozon, and I'm very sorry for what I'm about to do.
Oh no.
What? Hi,
Oh,
I'm VJ Stonecraft. I'm playing Theo, and I am a little terrified at what Dull is about to do.
Hello. My name is Sarah L. Kinney. I'm playing Winnie Chandler, and I've sent Adam a lot of questions about what I am allowed to do.
And I'm saying yes to all of them.
And I am Kerri Smith. I am playing Vetra, and I'm a little concerned.
And with all of those concerns and worries and butt plugs, let's get into the adventure. You feel the cold rain coming down on you. You are wet. You also feel as if someone is watching you. You can hear the rain and the wind as it is slowly dissipating, revealing the chirping of birds returning to the area. You smell the burning, a little bit of smoke coming from a burning pyre that has been put out by the rain, a little bit of ozone and a little bit of decay. And as you open your eyes, you see that you are in a cemetery in the town of Little Grave with wrought iron fences all around you, with little plots of tombstones, a mausoleum, an old tree, and the grays and the colors have been taken from the air, but they're slowly returning as the clouds are parting in the heavens above. But there is a black spot on the ground, on the earth, that just moments before was this huge lumbering creature of hair and hands and was fighting you, and then suddenly these wraiths came from the fog and ice, and they surrounded a crown of red, encircled it, and then it was gone in an instant. And then they were coming towards you and prying through your mind and asking questions, and then as soon as they came, they left. And they left you with a weight, deep, a sickness in your stomach. The things that you learned from them. That the second most powerful person, creature, thing in this world is the very person that Vigo was trying to warn you about. Tom the Wizard. And the fact that they said 10 days or they will return and, quote, rip the world asunder. And as the camera turns around, we see our four heroes in various states of disarray and wet as the rain stops dripping down, as the oppressiveness leaves this area, even though there's still a feeling deep inside that something is wrong. Would you all please introduce your characters, and tell us what they are feeling at this moment?
Theo is sitting on the ground now by that sort of ashen, dark, not puddle, but pile of whatever it is that's there that used to be Vorley, who is her mentor. And Theo's sitting there, and she's kind of curled up onto herself a little bit. She's wearing all these dark colors, nothing flashy. Everything's mismatched and too big for her. And she looks strange, but she always kind of looks a little strange, with half of her hair black, half of her hair white, and her skin that's very pale. But she looks odder than usual. She looks very distant. And she kind of looks down at where Vorley had been standing, attacking them all, and she says, "She didn't leave anything. She didn't even leave me a bone."
I'd say as you sort of like pick up the ash, it just sort of like falls through your fingers, and I'd say that there is maybe a trinket that's left behind of hers, but no bones, no body parts. What is left behind that you can have as a keepsake of the cleric Vorley Orspine?
So I think it would be like a bell. It seems like the kind of thing that she would have because she was kind of a joker and like to kind of annoy people and get on their nerves. So I think the little trinket would be a bell, and Thea will pick it up and just put it into the bag that she wears on her hip, that has all of her bones and other kind of mementos and trinkets, and she'll put it in there.
I mean, since Vorley was a dwarf and had a lot of interesting braids, maybe the bell was like a thing that
In
she
her
put
hair. Yeah.
I think that Dull is standing adjacent to where those wraiths had left, and is sort of standing in the place of the one that was closest to him. And I do think that he shares a glance with Winnie on the other side of the sort of half dome that they've created, where it is this look that communicates an understanding that is like mounting on years of evidence of creation of the following of leads, and I think a lot of the gears are clicking in place for him. And he has this stern look, and he's sort of brushing away at where he's just recently shaved through, and he's already plotting.
And I would say you're probably still holding that little sort of circular compass cryptex that has opened two little slots, and you see a little black stone in one, and then a little folded piece of paper in the other one.
Yeah, I do think he's folding over that stone and looking over the message for sure.
Someone else?
After locking gazes with Dole for this moment that feels like a day, that feels like a year, that feels like 2 years of work coming together, Winnie thrusts a hand up into the sky, and this dome of golden light with sickening green kind of pulsing at its edges begins to kind of lift up to a central point directly above where Winnie is, and she almost seems to grab it and then throw it down, and she casts Detect Magic on this zone where the wraiths were, where the body of Vorley was. She just kind of pulls all of that energy from this previous spell that didn't go the way that she wanted it to go, and she just throws it down in front of them, trying to figure out, what were these wraiths? Did they leave anything behind? Is there anything we're missing? Is there anything on this coffin or this kind of area of decay and chaos that we stumbled into?
I would say when you throw that down, throw it back. As you throw down the spell, I would say you're going to learn several things, but I'll tell you a couple of things first, and then we'll come back to you. The first thing is there's two separate things. There is the residual magic from those wraith-like things that left, and that is just like straight necrotic stuff. It is normal necrotic spells or necromancy spells are just like, you can see the color, but this is like the most vibrant color of necrotic that you've seen. The first word that jumps in your mind is death. And when you see that, but then there's another color, but it's not a color. It's in like the whole area of the town, everywhere that those things weren't. It's like the closest depiction you can get to it is it's like a new school of magic. It's something in between. Because when you pull from the weave, there's these strings. It's sort of like the silence in between notes in music. This is the silence in between the notes. Is this thing, you've never seen it before, and it makes you feel sick. And it's everywhere in this town. It's slowly going away, but it's almost as if the town is stained with it. The something that happened before you all came here. and you remember the clothing that was scattered about, and those corpses that the creature threw at you. They look long dead, so the clothing of the people that are missing in the town, it doesn't add up. And then we move to our last character.
Vetra had taken a few steps to follow these wraiths as they were disappearing, and her, like, honey blonde hair is stained with this ash and dirt from being dragged. Even with the rain kind of clearing a lot of it off of her skin, her hair is still just stained with it. Her clothes, her light leathers are stained with it. You see an entire neck tattoo that disappears down beneath her clothing. Her face is an expression that is a mix of confusion, concern, and fear all at once. And there's kind of like this slow turn. She turns and she catches Dull's eyes, and there's this kind of understanding, just slow nod. And then she turns and she sees Theo down at the ground, defeated, injured. And then she turns and sees Winnie as the spell is finishing, and all concern and fear disappears from her face, and it just changes to determination.
I would say at this moment, also as you're looking at Winnie and the fear sort of goes away, you feel a cold pain on your shoulder. Vetra just sort of like flares up a little bit, and then you hear a voice, and it says, "Classic Chandler, always smarter." And you sort of look to the side, and you see Davith, your father, standing there, but he has blood dripping down from his mouth. He has a gaping wound through his chest and his stomach. He looks over at you and goes, and blood sort of falls out of his mouth, and then he's gone. Only you saw that.
She's just frozen, looking at where he disappeared. There's no reaction.
I would say, probably looking at where the hurt is, you see a handprint and you remember when you were fighting the monster, something pushed you back. That must have been when one of the wraiths touched you and pushed you back. This is a wound or a scar from them just touching you.
Does it look like it like burned through the clothing itself, or is it more like a scratch?
The clothing has not been touched or scratched at all. It just touched your flesh.
Awesome. Yeah, so she's just kind of sitting there pulling that back and examining this now, kind of playing off. She probably jumped a little bit at the sight of Davith, and she's just playing that off as pain, and is now looking at her shoulder.
And we see, as the camera sort of zooms out to encompass all of the heroes standing after all this crazy shit just went down, and you have the floor.
We need a safe place to discuss everything we just learned. A place we know for sure we can guarantee that, that he's not listening.
I know this town. I've visited it before. Would I, just offhand or with a check, know of somewhere, probably not in town since the town itself seems pretty fucked at this point, but somewhere nearby, like, I don't know, like an abandoned cabin or a cave, anything like that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think with your magical knowledge, I guess the thing is like what do you all think would be a place? Because I guess you're not quite sure what can Tom do, what can't they? So I guess it's kind of up to you. Do you want to find a place in a cave? Do you just want to find a broom closet somewhere? Like, do you want to like go in a carriage? Like, I guess it's you can find whatever place it is besides like a lead 10 by 10 room here. I'm assuming in the middle of nowhere.
Would we have
Yeah.
something like that set up in our keep?
Yeah, something that is pervasive of magic influence.
It seems as if Winnie was necessarily building something like that, but that is also 2 days ride away.
That's true.
When Dole makes the suggestion, Winnie is like almost just like holding back, like just retching because she feels sick. There's no scratches on her body. She doesn't seem to have been kind of physically harmed in anything that's happened so far, but like she is ghostly pale from whatever she's kind of been intaking from this spell as she kind of walks around the area trying to gather as much information as possible. But her eyes snap to Dole. How worried are you about being overheard?
Listen, he's not directly paying attention, but I mean, I'd be worried about us too. Maybe we're an idle thought. If we're putting 1 to 10, I'd say I'm worried at a 7, probably warranted at a 5.
Honestly, your 5 or 7 is is like a 9 for me. Theo, if you can find us some place comfortable in town, I can make sure Tom can't hear us.
Do you need it to be comfortable by your standards or mine?
Whichever you prefer.
All right. Can I?
Yeah, honestly,
I think
you
it's
describe the place. I mean, this is a small
yeah.
village town, so like anything that would realistically be there, you describe where you guys are going.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you guys to a cave.
Great.
Yeah, it's a very cozy cave. It's large. There's a lot of space. It's not just like boulders on the ground that you have to sleep on. Like there's also dirt. So you can probably get a pretty good night's rest. And there's a hole in like the top of the cave, so we can build a fire. We'll be warm. And it's just kind of out of the village, so we're not in the village proper, kind of hidden away in like a grotto with like woods around it. So it's fairly secure. If Winnie has like any kind of magic she could do around it, we would know if people were trying to find us.
What do you tell to your carriage driver? they're on the other side of the town and they stayed there. But they would probably have ran up. You don't have to actually role play it, but like, what do you tell them as they sort of like run up and they're like, "What the fuck?"
So it's about 2 days ride with the carriage, right?
Yes.
Back to Manor. So
back to Thanes, the capital city where your manor is.
So I think I would tell them to sort of post up in the village, and I think I would explain that we're following down a lead that happened in the battle, and then it's not safe for them to follow, and that we'll return in 1 day's time, and then we'll make way for Thanes after that.
Okay. They don't really question it. You know, they look curious, but they don't question it because I mean, you guys are the superiors, so they just kind of hang out.
It's probably like dead silent on the walk to the caves. Like we had this moment where we were, fighting, and then we were back in the groove of like discussing after fighting and then walking with each other. It just gradually sinks back to that awkward, thick silence.
Yeah. And I mean, and also you're walking through, like, I don't know how, maybe like the cave is like 300 feet or like maybe a football field or more worth of space away, but you're walking through a dead forest. Just everything is dead, rotted, decayed away. Crunching, very, very, very crunchy leaves in the undergrowth, and even like bones of some like squirrels and birds and things that you have to step over. But you do hear birds returning, flying around the area, which you did not hear before. But yeah, very quiet.
Upon seeing the cave that we're brought to, Winnie just curses under her breath and then gets to work. I need a few minutes, but this place will be good when I'm done. So talk amongst yourselves, I guess. And Winnie looks pretty satisfied that she has to step away from the group. We see her pull 4 candles out of her components bag. They're small, they're kind of burned down. They've clearly been used before, but they've got, enough burn on them for at least what she has in mind. And over the course of 10 minutes, we see her very slowly move first to the north corner of the cave where she sets down a candle, pours, lights it, lets it burn down, puts some of the wax on the ground, and then sticks the candle into it so it won't fall. It'll be steady there. Then she moves to the south corner, then to the east, then to the west. And at the end of this kind of 10-minute period where she's spending a lot of time with these candles, making sure they're secure, we then see finally that golden light that is the way that she manifests magic, the way that she plucks from the weave, begins to draw lines from each candle to each candle to each candle. And we see this large square that kind of encompasses the whole of this cave that Theo has brought to us, draw to each other. And then these barriers start to just go up and up and up until the walls of this area are surrounded in golden light, and until this entire area seems to be secured. And then once these threads of golden light are done binding themselves to each other, they just vanish. And all that's left are these little flickering lights from the candle. Winnie has cast what I'm going to call Winnie Chandler's Private Sanctum.
Hell yeah. Can you just briefly tell me what that spell says?
This area is warded. Sound cannot pass through the barrier. The barrier is kind of foggy, so if someone was walking by, it would look a bit strange, but hey, they're looking into a cave, so they might think nothing of it. Sensors created by divination spells cannot appear inside of the warded area. Divination spells cannot target any of us while we are inside of the area, so Arcane Ward and Scrying cannot come into the area. Nothing can teleport in or out, and planar travel is not allowed. But Winnie has taken Dole's concerns to heart and cast the best spell she knows how.
Hell yes. And as the sort of golden light just sort of becomes translucent, you are all here, ostensibly safe from prying eyes. Scrying eyes, I should say.
We can speak freely here.
Okay. So we were visited by angels of death and told that the most powerful wizard in the world has broken the only law that the afterlife has, and learned that the benefactor from which we thought was our murderer, who killed the only Vikander that is in the Hall of Heroes and then left all of us for dead, actually was telling the truth, and that the heroes are a lie, led by someone who is supreme in power and has some of the best understanding of magic that we've ever seen before. So, I believe our odds are pretty good.
Certainly makes things interesting.
The good thing is, myself and Miss Chandler have been watching very closely for the last 2 years. All of the heroes in specific, but Tom has been chief among our list. And thankfully, I work pretty closely with the dumb-hatted wizard. We need to come up with a plan that ends with us in the same room as Tom within the next 10 days, and with us about his throat.
Okay, but he froze an entire room.
And we don't know where he is. And you work closely with him, but you haven't seen him in person?
That is going to be step one. We need to find something important enough that Tom would appear in person.
I'll say that Dull and Winnie, especially Winnie with your research, the stuff that you know more specifically about Tom is correct. He has not been seen in person in 2 years. He has only done mirror communication, basically. Same thing with Veridon, but they haven't done mirror communication. But Tom has a sort of sanctum, or
Yeah.
like every sort of big important magical person, for all intents and purposes, every wizard has a tower, and Tom has a magic moving castle, and it is in Thanes right now, the capital city where your headquarters is as well. Basically, it just appears and it magically moves everything out of the way, and sort of Harry Potter sort of style, where it's kind of moves everything out of the way, perception wise. But it is currently in Thanes. Yeah. And also, just to clarify, Tom is not, or it seemed with Vigo's letters that there is only one sort of bad dude, and that it's Tom. Like, Tom's not leading the rest of the heroes. It is specifically like there is one bad egg sort of situation, so that you're not against everyone. Well,
So far as we understand.
That's what it seemed in the letters. So, yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
We just need him to appear in person. And we already have his location in Thanes, or at least a tower at which he will return to at some point.
I bet if we started burning his library down, he'd come. I have never had someone smack my hand so hard than when I have tried to touch literally any of his magic books, even though I have been specifically invited there multiple times to literally learn things from his magic books.
Right.
Okay, but so
I'm
we
in
get him-
agreement, but if we come out on his offensive, he will have the upper hand every time. We
Shit,
need
you're
to be
right.
in a room where he trusts each one of us being there.
And
Yeah.
then what, though?
And then, well, we do what we do best, but not until we know for a fact that he does not expect anything of us.
I would say Winnie as well. Before the Dare Meet incident 2 years ago, there was many little wizard towers and stuff that you guys could kind of go and visit at. Those have been kind of taken down, so no one here has actually ever been inside of Tom's castle.
Right.
You've seen it before, never been invited inside. You don't even remember if you've seen a door on the thing before.
Here's my thinking, and follow me if this sounds a little too out of my purview, but trust me in knowing that I've considered this. We just learned something that only ourselves and Tom are privy to. Tom has denied death itself and has proven that he is the evil among the heroes. What if we approached him with the understanding that we discovered someone among the heroes was evil, but we make it especially aware that we do not think it to be him? He has a special vested interest in ensuring that we do not find out the truth, but he cannot act aggressively towards us on an open platform like that without causing attention to himself. So naturally, it's my understanding that he would at least try to work with us to take us off the scent of himself, putting himself in a vulnerable personal position that he would have to come out of hiding for.
We could use what happened with Vorley just now in the village as evidence. The hero
100%.
come back from the dead might be compelling enough to get him to show up in person.
Yes.
Which of the heroes would you blame?
Veridon. It's the only other one capable of something like this. and he would think it would be perfect, the closest to him, so easy enough to throw off the scent.
But also the closest to him and perhaps someone he's interested in protecting.
Right. It is a lot of risk. I wouldn't have suggested it without understanding that risk, but I know that it is a gamble on our lives. Everything we do outside of this cave following this minute after this is a gamble on our lives. So I think it's important we find out what was happening here with Orly before we make any move. But I think, in my mind, that's the move. We put our cards on the table and say we think someone is against the heroes. But we play dumb in not thinking it's him.
Dull, you
And
remember
and then what though? I still don't understand how that brings us to the end game here. Like,
we get into a room with him to discern the information that we've gathered, telling him that we have evidence that someone is evil within, right? He becomes suspicious as to how he can send us off the scent. We get him into a room in which it is all of us, and he is in a position of power. And then, how do I put this without sounding like I'm from the Falks? We assassinate him.
you think we were capable of that?
If I could put it this way, I don't believe we're capable of that. But Vigo did.
When you say Vigo, you also do remember the two little items that popped out of the thing as well.
I'll go into the little cryptex and take those out and put them out in front of them and say, this is another thing we need to consider. These two presented themselves when the Wraiths did. And I can only imagine that the solution came forward with Vigo's doing. And I'll put out the stone and read out the message, which, do I know what it says?
Yes. I see right before that, Winnie, you look at did you ever show anyone in the group this little cryptex?
This would be the first time.
Okay, Winnie, you see that thing, and you know exactly what made that work. It looks like it's a puzzle little thing where you have to like turn the things and get a right phrase, but it's actually magic triggered. It's triggered by a certain school, a certain spell. It triggers it and it opens. So it's almost like you have to bring this thing to a certain place, or a certain spell or aura has to be around, and that will trigger the thing. And the two items, sorry, or yeah, you go ahead.
Can I see that for a second?
Yeah, I haven't been able to crack them naturally. The only thing that opened it was being here, and I've tried for 2 years, but...
Yeah, you shouldn't feel too bad about that.
Vigo slipped it into my pocket when he tried to kill me.
That gives me some follow-up questions, but here. And assuming Winnie takes it into her hand, she will immediately cast Identify onto it. Mm-hmm. And she has one question, and it's, was this opened by necromancy, or was this opened by the new school of magic that's been making her stomach turn?
It was the combination of both.
Huh.
So if they were separate, if they were at separate instances, it wouldn't open it. It's like, oh, this is the special brew that is the key. These are the two tumblers that turns the key.
And once again, she just kind of puts a hand over her mouth and just like looks like she's gonna hurl, and then just, all right, you can take this back.
You also see that there's one unopened slot on it as well.
As in unlocked?
As in there's one more that is still locked.
Okay.
Oh shit! Can Winnie tell what school of magic might open it?
Unfortunately not. It seems that there's more spells sort of casted on this thing, or at least the construction of it is hiding the nature of what will open it.
There's another piece of this
Specifically for
puzzle.
magic people.
A solution to that third. In the meantime, he left us a stone and this message.
I would say everyone kind of recognizes the stone. It is a stone of sort of like far speaking. It is a sending stone, what some people call. They are very, very rare here, and basically, two stones are carved identically the same, and it links them magically together, and you are able to talk on one side, and the person who has the other stone is able to hear and respond, almost as if they're right next to the same stone. But you know that in your current spot, you could not talk to this person. But you know that the rarity of this stone means that there's probably only one other stone like it. And the piece of paper, you unfold it, and it just has a name on it. It says Emmerich Crawley. And Winnie specifically knows that is the 13th hero that died during the war, during the Great War. And you know specifically that they are a warlock, which us as players, we understand what that means, but characters in the world, only like the heroes of the Great War have a distinction between types of magic using, and basically this is just like, oh, you get your magic from a different source and you use it in a different way. So a warlock is the only magic wielding person that got their magic from an outside source, and it doesn't come from within them. But apparently, Winnie, what you know is they died during the war, and it wasn't really a big deal. They died and then they were buried. And in your research, you actually know where they are buried. And before you met Theo, you wouldn't think anything of it. But now that you know her, before it would be a dead end. Now it is not so much. And you know that they are buried on an unnamed trail to the west of here, about 2 days travel.
One question first. Emmerich, did they have a signature spell or something that they were known for?
Why?
Because when he's thinking about that last barrier on the cryptex, and even though she's handed it back to Dole because just holding it was making her feel like she wasn't going to keep down breakfast, but she does know that she needs to go back to it, and the gears are spinning in her mind. How do I open it?
I'll say yes and no. They have a signature like spell color because like everyone has sort of different ones, but they are dead for all intents and purposes.
So I think Winnie just kind of draws a blank, and the different stories kind of blend together, and she doesn't think of anything super helpful, and instead just kind of takes a moment to take a breath.
So we have a sending stone, which very well could put us in communication with Vigo, is my guess. And then we have the name of a deceased hero, and a miracle person who reads the bones of the dead. I think that is an obvious next step. Vigo is trying to tell us something. I think we owe it to him to at least see it through as to what he's trying to say.
They mentioned the wraiths that showed up that took Vorley. They mentioned the Shadow King. They did mention that, I believe, distinctly. Do you remember that day 2 years ago? A lot of things happened. Vigo was taken by the heroes. Vetra, your dad, died. I'm so sorry about that.
The moment that you say Vetra, though, whenever Dole said, but Vigo did, Vetra got up and walked over to the cave entrance. So you kind of look, and she's not standing in there with you.
it was the day that all of the terrible stuff that happened, and everything
Yeah.
changed for us, and we stopped talking and we stopped spending time together. It was that day, that really awful, that one. I tried to use my magic on the hand that Vetra ripped off of Beta in the tower, and I couldn't do it. And it wasn't just that I couldn't do that. The next time that I tried it, I was seen by something. Something changed. I don't think it had to do with Beta. I don't think it had to do with Vigo. Something saw me when I was there in between, trying to ask questions. It saw me. There was a tower in the distance. There was something about a Shadow King. Whatever lives there, whatever inhabits that plane, it knows that I could get in, and now I can't. I haven't been able to use my dagger in 2 years. I've tried. It hasn't worked.
When Theo mentions that, you all get that little brief vision of what you all saw after the sort of explosion-y thing, after the monster was pushed away by these knights, and you all remember that black tower with a red iron crown atop it. Just a little flash of that.
There has to be a reason or a solution or something there. And if we can't do it through that, if you can't push that, Theo, well, I'm not going to make you. I'm not going to ask you to do something you don't want to do, but then we have to find it out our way, on this plane. There has to be something in Crowley's grave or something to do with him and what happened to him that connects back to this. We know Vigo, and if he did all of this to send us to do what we're about to do, then there is a purpose that's worth seeing through.
I think I can try my magic again. The Wraiths, they mentioned that I would have it back, but maybe not forever. I'm not sure. It seemed like there might be a finite limit. I don't know. But they said that I had it back. I'm willing to try again. I just don't know. The next time I go, will the Shadow King see me? Will I be able to get back? Will it hurt me again like it did before? I don't know. Vetra, why are you so far away?
I'm keeping watch.
I'm willing to try. Vetra, if you are willing to help.
Sure.
I think there were...
You hear a voice for a second. You sure you're good at that? And it goes away.
I think there are a lot of things that we are all going to have to try, that we are going to have to sacrifice, that we are going to have to push. That's not to understand or to impose that I think I know what you're going through, Theo, or what it means to step into that place. But if Tom has what he has, we need to be willing to sacrifice anything we have to stop him. Vigo went through what he did to put us like chess pieces in the right places.
Theo looks over at Vetra, who I'm assuming is still at the cave entrance. And Theo looks at you, Dull, in a way that she doesn't probably ever look at you. And you get the impression that she's angry with you. And she says, "Stop talking about Vigo. You don't have to say his name. Vetra is right there."
Look, I lost things too because of him. And I think that he is speaking more to Vetra than he ever is Theo, but keeps that eye connection with Theo. You have lost plenty. Everyone in this room has sacrificed because that man decided we were up to the task. But that was with the understanding that there is a world out there that could be taken advantage of at any given second. because someone has decided that he is bigger than death. We cannot be afraid of a name. Because there is a far bigger concept on the end of all of this if we do not make every single step the right one. And you know what? Yes, we have not spoken for 2 years, and maybe it's better that we do now. Maybe it's better that we say every name. Because I care about all of you, I do. And I will do anything that it takes to keep you all safe and to move us forward. But even more than that, I will do anything if it means stopping someone like this. So if you question where I stand, I will be in the camp that can say his name.
So say his name. But stop fucking saying it like he's excused for everything that he's done. We're talking about him like he's some mastermind that put all of this together because he's so smart and so good. Everything that has been said about him has been said like he's someone who deserves it.
Or like he didn't kill Davith.
Or try to kill us. You say every step we make has to be correct, but the first step that you're making to reunite us, it's not working out.
If you cannot see that there are things bigger at play, just by the fact that this alone, and he holds up that puzzle box, triggered the second we were in the right place at the right time, and understand that he doesn't have a plan, if this is all for naught, then I don't know why you followed me in here. I don't know what me and Winnie have been planning for 2 years. I am with you. He made decisions that took away my life. He was everything to me. But I am not so callous as to forget what he did for us as well. Or to think that he did it without an understanding of what was at stake.
He could have moved with perfect understanding. He could have moved as some sort of righteous god looking down at a chessboard, knowing exactly how the pieces would move. And he could have made a perfect strategy. And Dole, I am with you when you say that he made the right choices, because if I was him and in his shoes, I might have done the same thing. And we have been working on something to at least make some of this worth it, but we don't have to in the same breath pretend that he didn't also massively fuck up, that he didn't massively fuck us. Because if I was being perfectly honest, this is probably not the trajectory I would have chosen for my life, but I am also reasonable. I am also like you, Dole. I recognize where I am. I see the pieces where they are, and I know that I can't just move them. I have to play the game as it has been given to me, but it can still suck.
I am not trying to take your hurt. God knows I have protected mine for 2 years. Vetra, I am not trying to take what happened to you away. And Theo, you know as well as I do the hurt that he brought us. But I am also not going to sit here and pretend that I do not have to see it through.
We're not asking you. I'm not asking you to not see it through. I'm asking you for a little bit of fucking empathy. You're not over Vigo. I'm not over Vigo. How the hell could she be over her dad in 2 years?
You accuse me of lacking empathy?
Vetra, can you give me a wisdom save real quick?
Fuck, Kerri needs to make a wisdom save. That's a 4.
You hear in your ear, "Is it true? Are you afraid of my name?" He's gone.
Dole, after
I have given you every ounce that I have, Theo. This is the closest I have to loving someone, is giving everything that I have for 2 years to make sure that they can still exist. You think I bring Vetra on those little walkabouts because I don't see what they're going through? I play the game I'm given. But you're not seeing what's at stake or what I've prepared. And I reach into the center and I grab that sending stone and I walk out of the candle circle.
Okay, first of all, everyone gets goddamn inspiration. It's fucking amazing. I would also say that, Vetra, are you trying to hide the fact that you're having an injury and that it's causing you?
I think she's very, very visibly grabbing her shoulder, especially getting more agitated and, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, not trying to hide it, but
Okay, I would say everyone else notices that. Whether they choose to talk to you about it is up to them. But also, Winnie, give me a history check real quick. Oh, hell
before Dull walks out, I have something else that I would like to do.
So do I.
Right. Yeah, as Dull is beginning to walk away, I assume walking past Vetra.
Yeah, and I think he stops for a second at the mouth just before leaving the candles. That is like a moment before Vetra, and he's trying to form words and can't find it. So I'm sure you come to it first.
Vetra takes a step just to be basically like side by side with you. Doesn't look you in the eyes and just says, I thought you didn't want to be like him. But go plot and plan. We'll be here.
He meets your eyes directly. And for a moment, it is just regarding you as another person and giving you the respect you deserve. And in the Falks, this would be almost predatory, but here it is just connection. And he says, I hope years from now, when the skies are clear and you are at peace, you understand that I did all of this for you. I do not take what you and I are lightly. I never wanted to be him. But if I need to be, for you, in a heartbeat.
You think of your mother.
In a heartbeat, I would do what no one else would. And I step out of the candles, sending stone in hand.
Okay.
I just, fuck. Before you do that, Dole, Vetra, Theo, I just come here for just a second. I thought of something and the timing's really bad, but it's important.
It's really bad. I was just about to make my dramatic exit.
Right, but this is context that's
I
probably
had the
really
stone
important.
and everything. I was going to
Yeah,
leave. I was
no.
going to send the message.
I know. Could you just come back?
Do
real
I have to
quick?
stand? Okay.
Yes.
I go stand by Winnie, very upset.
Vetra, you two, come on. And I think Winnie reaches out a hand towards Vetra and kind of wants to put it on kind of her upper arm, but doesn't want to touch her unless she's okay with it.
I think there's this brief moment of hostility in Vetra's eyes, like when she looks over and sees you reaching up. But it's like the hostility was still just left over, and I don't think she pulls away.
Look how
So then he waits a
mature she
second.
is.
Now she pulls away.
Right. So I think Winnie almost puts a hand on Vetra and kind of pulls it back, and then almost kind of with the other hand does the same thing to Dole, kind of touching more around his forearm.
I think Dull is a lot more accepting of it, and it almost feels familiar. I think him and Winnie, over the 2 years, have realized they understand each other really well, and so Dull accepts that he's being bullheaded and allows the touch.
And then when he looks over at Theo and just tries to make eye contact with her and just takes a breath and then breathes out and gives Theo just a tiny bit of a smile.
Theo will look back at you. Theo doesn't blink very often, so she'll keep eye contact.
All right, so the Prince of Stars.
Go to a place where you all were children. This is sort of a very vague sort of...
You mean right now when we're all acting like children?
A place right now you're all adults sitting in front of... No.
Season 1s and 2s.
I would say we're in a vague tavern setting with like a fire nearby. And it's just an old man, kid sitting in front of them. And he's just like, all right, I think it's time that I told you the story of the Prince of Stars. And they're like, yay, yay. He's like, well, it all started way, way back, right before magic was ever a thing. You see, there was this prince, and there was a terrible storm one night, and he heard a knock at his door, and he went to open it, and there was a person in a cloak, and there's a terrible, and they asked for shelter from the storm, and the prince gladly welcomed in the stranger because he was kind, he was nice, a good prince. In the morning, when the storm had passed, the prince discovered that the stranger was a god, and he helped the god and saved them from a terrible storm. So the god offered the prince a boon, a gift for his kindness and generosity. The god told the prince that every night, if you go out and look at the stars and you pray to the stars, I will grant you eternal youth. And the prince was ecstatic, excited. But he did say, the god warned him, he said, but there will be a time when death will come for you, and you must greet them like a friend, and you must go with them. And he warned him, he said, death is no fool. The prince accepted it. And as the years went on, every night, the prince would look up to the stars and pray to the stars. And as the world moved and he acquired wealth and fame and glory, and he also acquired greed and fear and pride over the years, as he began to fear what was coming next. And when the time felt near, the prince felt as if death would be coming soon. He went to hide from death. He went to a very deep, dark forest, full of green, where he thought he might hide from death. But one day, the green was no match, and death came, and said to the prince, it is time. I will guide you on. Will you join me? But the prince refused. And death said, then I will take your green, the forest in which you hid from me. And death took all of the green from the world, but warned the prince before he left, said, I will return for you, and ask twice more, but no more. And death left. And years passed, and the prince, still full of pride and fear, recruited a whole army, brought all of his friends, all of the strong people in the world, together to keep death at bay, to fight them away when death would return. And then death returned. And the army, they could not harm death. They walked unfazed through the soldiers, untouched by their swords and their shields. And once more, death greeted the prince. And he said, it is time. I will guide you on. Will you join me? And the prince refused a second time. And death said, then I will take your army, the friends who you set upon me. And death took all of the soldiers and the companions that he had in the world, and he left the prince alone. And he warned the prince again, a final time, I will return and ask once more, then no more. And the years passed, and the prince built a tall stone wall to be closer to the stars that he prayed to every single night. After all these years, he built this wall to keep death away. He thought if he built it as high as he could and as strong as he could, that it would finally keep death at bay. But death returned. And the wall was no match for death. He climbed it easily and met with the prince for the final time. And he said again, "It is time. I will guide you on. Will you join me? Please." But the prince refused for the last time. And Death said, "Then I shall take the stars, the ones you pray to every night." And Death took the stars from the heavens and departed without another word. And without his stars, over the years, the prince's youth went away and withered, and slowly, alone in the barren world atop his crumbling tower, he died. But death did not come for him. It did not come for the prince. The prince remained, cursed to forever wander, unable to pass on without death's guiding hand. And you see the kids. What kind of story is that? And then it goes back to the present moment. And Winnie, when you remember that story, you start to... a bunch of different names are sort of coming to you. Or like you remember seeing a couple of volumes of things that you never quite looked into because it wasn't necessarily pertaining to the heroes. But now there is something that you know when you get back to the manor that you can look up. You have something itching in your brain. They're like, there is a book that I need to look at. But you do not have it with you, but it is at the manor. And this just sort of like triggered you because you're remembering this death stuff and Theo talking about all of these knights and the Shadow King and all this stuff, and something sort of percolating, some story, something that you've skimmed before, but it is back at the manor.
I don't know if this is anything, but a part of me thinks that maybe, just maybe, and once again, a working theory, that tower we saw, Theo saw, is the tower that belonged to this Prince of Stars, and that perhaps this Prince of Stars is now our Shadow King. Maybe gone mad, maybe gone angry, maybe gone furious, whatever the case may be, from a life of not, well, living, trying to die every day, but not being able to.
Dole, give me an investigation check.
While you're looking, this is a weird question possibly, but are there like a such thing as birth records in this world?
I would say mostly for nobility, but I would
so
say
for Tom, for instance, we would be able to find one.
like who his parents are and stuff like that.
No, just
If we can figure out
basically-
when he was born, if it was a long, long time ago.
Yeah, you can totally. Yeah, there's
If he was
definitely
born,
records.
you know?
If he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
born.
Yeah, you
I
can
have
definitely
a-
find those records.
Cool.
I have a 21.
I would say that Winnie is thinking of this more of like more literal, and you are thinking of this story a little bit more
Metaphorical.
cautionary tale of fucking with death.
I think
Um,
that we are being presented with the consequences of what Tom could become. The perversion of death causes the cessation of nature. It is not so much that he pervades death, runs, and becomes something else. The parable is that if you deny the natural right of the world turns itself in against you. If
So
Tom
it's-
continues doing what he's doing, the stars will fall. Maybe not literally, but what we become, what this world, the rules that are at play, they break.
So it's not so much this has happened before, but it could happen, period. And that would be bad. All right.
You have to
Yeah,
think
I
of
buy
it.
that.
Yeah, because I feel like Winnie, with like what drew you to the story is that there's no information about any of these things. So you're like, death, that's the only story I know about death so far. So that was like the first thing that your mind jumped to when you were like trying to think of stuff. But
If he's broken the rules of death, what's to say that the weave is not the next to come unraveled?
The
There
stars,
are the stars.
well, the stars might not be literal, but the wraiths saying they'll tear the world asunder sounds pretty literal to me.
I agree. Those are the stakes.
In 10 days to do it?
Vetra, how are what do you think in all this?
I think all of you know Vetra enough to know facial expressions, and whatever she was gonna say, she thought better of it. And there's a little pause. I don't think we can do it, but I'm with you. Whatever it is that we're doing. None of this makes sense. Or maybe I just don't understand it. I don't see a version of this where we get out this time. I mean, we're talking about Tom.
Dull, you and I almost died fighting Vigo, and as far as we know, he was probably pulling punches.
Don't disagree. But I shudder to think what other option we have.
No, we don't. The chessboard's been set, right?
Yes. There's an answer here. And I know that what happened 2 years ago changed all of us, but it also proved that these people are the same as us. People. They're not myths. They're not gods. They don't control the stars, not yet. And they can be bested. They have to be. We need to make sure that that happens. And we have done it once. We will do it again. Because we do not have another option. And I agree, we nearly died. And I agree, we may again. But I would rather do that than watch the stars fall. And last time we didn't have 2 years.
I can't go toe to toe with Tom, and I have some pretty good inklings as to what he's capable of, but you know what? I've got some ideas about what we can do to make this happen. I am nothing if I don't have hope, right? And hey, I think our next stop is a gravesite, and it's a good news. We've got a shovel in the back of the carriage, so that's practically what qualifies for a party for this group.
It's very true.
Emmerich grave is about 2 days away from here.
I'd say, Doll, are you going to go out and use this sending stone?
I think I look to the others and go, the moment that I imagined was me rushing out of this room and then calling Vigo in a fit of rage and discovering some sort of information I could lord all over the three of you and then act superior for as long as that gave me. But after the whole story, realizing that we're the only ones who can stop the world from collapsing in on itself, I've realized I don't need to be the bigger man because I was already right. So, I figure we could talk to him when we're all ready. And, we don't have to if we don't want to. I'm just going to keep this in this stupid little puzzle box that should have never been given to me. It should have been given to Winnie.
I just, once again, you shouldn't feel too bad about it. I wouldn't have been able to open it.
I just know that it was a practical joke to give me a puzzle I couldn't solve.
Fair.
And it hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. And I think I put the sending stone back into the little collapsible puzzle and then shut the door.
All right, so yeah, you get back to the carriage. I guess I'm assuming be like, hey, we're going on a trip. And I would say you spend 2 days traveling west. And you, it's a pretty uneventful journey. You come across a couple of small towns, yada yada, and then at the end of the second day, torrential downpour. It is, you can barely see like 60 feet in front of you. It is just everything is soaking wet unless you're inside of the carriage, and even like you've actually took a wrong turn down a couple of roads and had to backtrack, and then you eventually
Great, now we're fighting because we're lost.
Exactly.
Okay, but are we about to like stop at an inn where there's only one mega bed?
Oh my gosh. Let me just write that down real quick.
No!
When he's just
sorry, we
threatening
only
to turn
have
the
one
carriage
bed
around.
that
We
fits
only have
9.
one
I don't
giant
know.
Oh no, they said there were 2 beds.
We all sleep on the floor around the bed.
In a little star. But yeah, you have to backtrack a little bit, and then you find that there's a signpost that fell down in the mud, and you picked it up, and you're like, oh, it's this way. So then you go down this, like, another no-named backcountry road, and then you almost pass it, but then I think, who has the highest passive perception here?
Mine got
Okay.
upgraded, so I think it may still be,
Yeah.
Theo.
I think it's mine, 17.
Yeah, mine
Okay.
is 15.
So Theo spots it also because she's used to spooky. And she spots the wrought iron fence of the cemetery that is just off on the side of this like no-name freaking dirt mud road. And you're able to like stop the carriage there, open the gates. There's literally 5 graves here. And you eventually are able to find the grave of Emmerich Crawley. It seems like all the rest of the names are like unknown, John Doe, like, or maybe just a name of some person you've never heard of before, but the grave looks undisturbed, like it's been here for quite some time.
And it's still downpouring.
Yes,
Cool.
It is very, very rainy.
Well, if we've located the grave, then Theo is definitely going to start digging. I assume she was on the back of like Vetra's horse or something, just refusing to be alone with Dole for any amount of time, if there aren't other people present at least. And so Theo at this point is just shivering, like very noticeably shivering. But she's gonna start digging as much as she can, and I assume it's very like difficult, muddy sort of work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Vetra is going to use the shield as like an umbrella sort of situation to just block as much from our faces as possible so we can
Right.
see to dig.
I think Dull is going to take a shovel and purposefully get as close to Theo there and just start digging directly adjacent.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I don't even. And the ground beside the grave starts to rumble and it starts to lift up. And then it begins to coalesce together until we see this long hand with this kind of fat wrist and stubby finger sort of be created out of this grave dirt. And then this large hand, it is about 5 feet tall with a palm 3 feet across, just reaches down at the next shovel strike and just begins to dig dirt out of the grave. And we can see Winnie is just like, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this before.
Vetra
And she's,
literally like plops the shield down,
Yeah.
like, seriously?
I
I
think
just,
Dull points the shovel at the hand and goes, "If you're wondering how we get stars falling from the sky, it's when this becomes the precedent."
yeah, I guess I could have said something. And Winnie is just standing a few feet away from the grave, making this hand motion that this hand that's come up from the ground, and it's making pretty quick work of the grave. And then probably is able to like pop the coffin out of the ground.
I would say you're digging for a while, and Theo, you actually notice you see a light coming towards you, as if someone's like holding a lantern or something, and it looks like they're wearing like a big rain poncho, and someone is holding up a lantern, and they say, "Is there something I can help you with?"
Theo sees the gravekeeper and immediately turns to Dol just for a brief moment before turning her attention back to the grave and says to Dol, "Well, Dol, it's a stranger asking questions. Time for you to lie." And just goes back to the grave.
Thank you very much, Theo. I appreciate it.
You won't find anything in there.
Excuse me?
If you'd like some tea, I've just made some. And they turn around and start to walk back. And Theo and everyone else, you can actually just start to barely make out on just the edge of where you can see in this rain that there's a little tiny cabin on the edge of this graveyard.
Well, Theo, my love, would you like some tea, or should I just go lie with the man in the cabin there?
It sounds like a pretty good time, Dol. Why don't you handle it? You
Sure.
like handling everything, you like doing everything, you're great with
Guys, I'm
strangers.
tired. Can we just not?
Winnie, the last scoop, there is not a coffin in this grave.
This was such a waste. I think we could all use some tea.
Sir, how about we go into your cabin there and you can tell us what happened to Mr. Crowley?
They're already at their house. They
I
did
think
not wait for
I
a
would have walked
response.
up with them, you know.
Sure. And they open the door, and you see is a sort of a cozy fire hearth, very sort of small cabin inside. They hold the door open.
I'll walk in, absolutely, and take a seat wherever he gestures me to.
Everyone else.
Theo stays in the doorway, still kind of in the rain out of spite.
Winnie brushes kind of dirt that doesn't exist off of her gauntleted hand and walks through the doorway, and it gives Theo a quiet look that asks, "Please come in," and then shoots a quick glance at Vetra before walking in herself and taking a seat near Dole.
Yeah, Vetra will go in. Not say anything, but just sit down with the two of them.
I'd say the person turns towards you, Theo, and they're like, "The rain is rather nice, isn't it?"
I think so. Yeah, it's pretty good out here. It's comfortable.
Looks cold.
Cozy. It's
It's
really
good.
cozy, Dol.
Good to reflect sometimes.
But if Vetra's inside, I will eventually go inside too.
And they take off their poncho, and you see the face of Emmerich Crawley.
Oh.
The 13th hero. They are an androgynous figure. very rail thin. They look very haunted. They have short hair on the side, sort of long on top with a shock of white through it. It looks wild and disheveled. They look very sad, and they are a half orc.
Do we immediately recognize them as Emmerich Crawley? It's immediately evident to all of us, or?
I would say it is immediately evident to uh, Winnie when they take off their hood. Everyone else, you're like, I think I know you from somewhere because you've
Okay.
seen like the statues, but you haven't done extensive research like Winnie has. So Winnie immediately recognizes them.
Right.
The moment the hood comes down, we see Winnie just immediately lean forward, arms on the table, looking, kind of extending themselves towards Emmerich. And she just, so like, how did you cast magic? Because I've read everything about you, and yeah, you should be dead, but whatever, because this means I can ask some questions. So, how did you do it?
I'd be glad to share, but I'm more concerned with what you want. And they sort of look around. You see, it looks like they're packing in here. There's like a couple like suits of armor and like rugs and then like things like boxes getting ready. It looks like they're like maybe getting ready to leave. They're like, who are you? And how did you find this place? There's only
We-
2 people in the world that know where I am. And I've spoken to one of them recently.
Who was that?
I'd like you to answer the question first, please.
We are the Knights of Nemeria
What's that?
and former, we're apprentices of the heroes.
Huh. I am, as you probably have guessed, Emmerich Crawley, but I prefer M. Please.
If I may,
Yes?
it's written into our history that you passed away. Is that true?
I did. Why have you come to find me? And how? What is your intentions? I went through a lot of trouble to remain hidden.
Unfortunately, you've gone to some great lengths to stay hidden, but I've had 2 years and not a whole lot to do with them, so that's how we found you. But Dole
So
has
it
a good
is-
question.
So you know Tomont then?
We're, we were all trained by him.
Did you
If we're
pay him
being
to
honest.
get this information?
No,
So they gave it willingly?
yes, it's complicated. He died to send us to you. And I'm going to reach in and take out that cryptex and set it on the table in front of you.
You see them kind of like when you reach in their pocket, they sort of kind of like put up their hands for a second.
I'm not here to hurt you, and we are here under honest intentions. And if you would like to pour tea before I take anything out of my pocket, I can remove my hand.
As you wish.
And then I'll continue until the cryptex is on the table.
I guess they kind of look at it and sort of look up back at you.
This was given to us by Vigo. In your name, and he'll reach in and take out the slip there, was the first in its puzzle pieces.
And I'm assuming you're here about my death. To learn how.
Yes.
Perhaps we can help each other then.
It's,
As long as you promise to keep what we discuss a secret. And do a favor for me, I can tell you what I know.
I look to the others and see where their heads are at.
What kind of favor are we talking?
They sort of think for a second. If the reason that you're asking about my death is what I think it is, that you'll be using the information for what I think you will be, our favor will help both of us. A simple retrieval of an item.
I don't see how we can say no.
Theo?
What item is it that we need to find?
It is a gift that I wanted to give, but it is difficult for me to get out, as you can understand. There was an auction in the city of Thanes, and I wanted an item, but it was purchased by someone else. But they also purchased another thing, and I contacted them via an alias and a letter, but they did not wish to part with it by financial means. They discussed a favor, a problem at their second manor, and being unable to deal with that myself, I chalked it up to a failure. So perhaps you could do that, get both things, and we can have our business seen as fulfilled.
We'll need to know the item of which we're retrieving, but
Yes, of course.
And the name and the alias, if you have them.
yes.
How about this? I can give you half of the information now for what you need, and half of the information after this favor is done.
I believe that's very reasonable.
Very well. It begins a long time ago during the war. To answer your question, they look at Winnie. The best way to put it, my magic was given to me by, it looks like it's hard for them to find the word. We'll call them a patron. Someone saw something in me and decided to give me the abilities that I had, but they had certain requirements. And
I mean, like a god picked you, or
something else, something different. It is hard to describe. To give names is rude to them. But nonetheless, I was in the Heroes of the Great War fighting, but there came a time where my patron, I was blinded by my power, and justifiably so, the inner circle of the Heroes of the Great War ordered my assassination. Justifiably, my patron, they found amusement in me helping the other side. So, an assassin was hired, and they had many steps to go through to reach me. But they showed mercy at the very end. It was not Vigo. But we made a deal. My death will look real, but I will be able to keep my life, and now they are very dear to me. It did work. I'll
Who?
be
Who was
traveling
it?
soon. That is not necessary.
Look, we're dealing in a lot of trust right now, a lot of trust issues right now. Just tell us who it was, please.
The name will not be known to you. Sicaria. And truthfully enough, it is not. Actually, Winnie, give me a history check. This is going to be very difficult.
Come on.
You have inspiration.
I have
Yes, you do.
inspiration, so I will use it because the first dice was a 4. Thank you. But the second one is a 12, so 21.
You feel where you're at right now, nothing comes to mind, but you feel like you might have seen that name somewhere, but nothing right now. Perhaps when you return back, you might be able to pinpoint something, but the information you have now, nothing is coming to mind.
Winnie just gives Vetra a very grateful but awkward nod of thanks and then turns back to M.
And M continues, they told me how they did it. It is 3 steps. All magic wielders, almost like demigods, have similar things, similar weaknesses. First, they have a home, somewhere where they think is safe. But it is also the most dangerous place for them, but also the most vulnerable. Every wizard has a tower, but every wizard also has a servant that gets in and out without suspicion. So the first step was to find that servant and find how they are entering unnoticed. It could be an item, a spell, a word. Sicaria found that in mine and was able to enter easily. The second step was a magical protection, and I do not mean a simple ward. I mean something more powerful, some way of truly being hidden or protected. The saying goes, no matter how much you plan, the wizard has always planned more. The third step was finding and disabling the item of power. It could be a book, a wand, a crystal. Everyone, each person has one. And they were able to find all 3 and left me helpless. I know where you can start with the first one, by finding their servant, but I will leave the other 2 until the favor is completed.
So you already know what we're after.
So that is what you are after? It's probably best to not know exactly why or what you are doing, but I can guess. The only reason you would find me is to find out how. And my answer is, it is possible. However, I do not have any magic anymore. My death has left me without. But it did not stop me from enchanting a few things before I left. And you see one of the suits of armor sort of like straightens up. I would not let strangers into my abode unless I knew that I could handle them.
Well then, I suppose what's left is getting you what you're owed.
Yes. Like I said, there was an auction. An auction, I'm assuming, would probably be of special interest to you. An auction that was set up by the Wizard Tomarus estate. items were sold, and the 2 items that were bought by a certain Senator Glycinian. One was the item that I require, the Eye of Enoch, and the second was a small raven figurine, which was an invitation to a specific meeting with Tom. Though from my contacts, I have heard that Tom has not been seen for 2 years, so I assume the meeting will be with their servant, whoever it is that they are. They have been sold to this senator, and like I said, the way of exchanging it with a favor is dealing with some problem at their second manor, their second estate. But however you get the items is up to you.
I see.
I will be leaving soon, but I will stop and wait in Thanes for the delivery.
How do we find you again?
Let's say they tell you a specific location in the city, or like on the outskirts of the city that they could meet. That'll be like well warded.
You'll have your item.
Seems fair to me.
I think Vetra kind of leans over just so only Winnie can hear and just says, "Do we have time for this?"
I hope.
So I'm assuming you all are traveling back to Thanes right now. Is there anything that you'd like to happen on the way there, on the road?
I would like to ask Vetra and Winnie to do a ritual with me, and maybe in the carriage. And I guess my question to Vetra and Winnie is, are you willing to help Theo with this strange ritual if she doesn't tell you what it's for?
You already know Vetra's answer.
No.
I mean, yeah, as long as I can take notes and ask you questions about it later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because one of the feats that I have is being able to do a seance or a spirit session, which I can get supernatural insights for, and learn a spell that I do not normally have in my arsenal, which I can then keep until the next time I take a rest. I just need 2 other people to be willing to do it with me.
Whoa.
And Theo definitely does not want to tell you what spell she's trying to learn.
So
If you
just
ask...
for
Oh,
my
go ahead.
own clarification here, like, what does the ritual look like? More specifically, do we all have to like hold hands in a circle?
Yeah, you have to hold hands in a
Great.
circle. You
Okay.
also have to hold bones. And
Okay.
Theo spends a lot of time trying to figure out which bones are most appropriate. Like, she gives Vetra like a femur, a bunch of candles that she has lit in the carriage. Dole, she tells you you're not invited. You have to stay outside the carriage.
No boys allowed.
No boys allowed. It's just an hour long ritual. Dole, all you hear is like weird chanting. Just Theo doing some weird fucking chanting.
Yeah.
And if you ask her what spell she's trying to learn, she tells you, oh, it's a, well, it would spoil the surprise, but it's divination. It could be necromancy, but it's divination. It's divination.
Are you sure I'm not allowed to ask?
Well, I suppose you're welcome to ask. I might just lie, but I'm also not good at keeping secrets, so no, you're not allowed to ask.
All right. And Winnie spends the entirety of the ritual trying to figure out which spell it is.
Yeah, you're starting to hear some like ghost whispering that's definitely not Theo
Shut up.
speaking.
That's not helpful. You're distracting me while I try to figure this out.
They're
Vetra
saying
looks-
it's divination too. That's
Vetra
what
looks
they're
oddly
saying.
thankful. Like, oh, these are good whispers.
Divination. All
Shit.
right, cool. Then I'll move that card into my hand.
Okay, cool. Anything else that you'd like to do on this journey, anyone, before you arrive?
I'll just note that Vetra has been like, it looks like whittling or carving something, pretty consistently throughout the trip.
Dull spends each night, but especially on the night that he's not invited, he takes a long walk around midnight, and he has been sectioning out portions of the night sky and drawing the stars and their locations each night.
So we've got some whittling and some star mapping going on. And you fill this long 2-day journey back of mostly silence. And then you finally, as you crest over one of the hills, you can see the various hills of Thanes, the capital city of Nemeria. It is a coastal city, very Mediterranean in climate, beautiful, very Roman, Greek architecture everywhere, but it's a little bit more fantasy-ized. The buildings are a little bit taller, a little bit more precarious. And all a bunch of manner of chariots and things are going through the streets, and it's beautifully paved. There's fountains everywhere. It's a little bit, there's aqueducts everywhere. It's a little bit gauche with all of the water that they have. It's a little bit too much, but they love it, and everyone is actually either middle class or upper here. It's very wealthy city and area.
Do you think following up on M's lead is very important, because that could be an entrance into the castle? I also think something on our docket that we probably should not overlook for too long is the fact that the king is waiting on us. We should at least tell him at some point that we were successful in our attempts, and maybe renegotiate our circumstances with the new information that we have. Those two jump out at me at first.
Do we have time to be lost in negotiations, Dole? We all know how long you talk and how long your negotiations can go. I don't know if that's in our best interest. I don't understand people, but the king seems trusting, decent. Maybe too trusting or too decent. If we give him information that we have, who's to say someone couldn't get it from him?
Then let's not go.
So it looks like Dull and Theo are going to go to Senator Quintus Glycinian's estate. So we will go to the Southmaw Manor first. So you arrive at Southmaw Manor, very beautiful district, arts, all good stuff. It is actually the 3-year anniversary of the Great War's end this week. So there's a lot of people partying and having a good time in the streets, but it's kind of dying down because it's sunset now. You arrive back at the manor. You can see Lions Guard folk finishing their training and coming back. As you enter the manor grounds, you see Mortimer appear, your pretty much ghost butler, and is like, "Is there anything I can help you with? Shall I inform the king that you have returned?"
I guess.
Would you like me to inform him, or?
No, but it seems like a good idea, so sure, why not? Send him a note.
I will delay the letter.
Yeah, all right. I actually... No, he is an idiot. So yeah, delay it. That sounds great. Dole will get back eventually, and he's better at dealing with these things.
Will Lord Ozon or Theo Phinia be joining us?
Soon. But not now.
Of course. Shall I prepare meals?
Training room would be great.
Training room? You see him kind of like stare off for a second. All prepared. And yourself, Lord Chandler. Anything I can help you with?
Remind me, are you able to set aside books in the library?
He gives like a slight smile. Yes.
All right, fine. You've convinced me. I need everything that contains the word Sicaria. I need everything that contains the word stars and prince in the same novel. I need everything that contains the words folklore and story, and also, fuck it, all books of poetry separated out into different piles.
This will take some time. He stares. Done. And then we sort of, I guess, flash to you all doing your various things. You can describe them. Winnie, the stuff that you learn as you're perusing all of these books and things. First was the Prince of Stars story. You keep saying, because you kind of get books in this period, since the printing press has not been invented yet, books are very, very precious, and they keep very careful logs on who checks out what. It seems Mortimer kind of comes to you after a little while, and it says, it seems all of the requests referring to those like knights or wraiths or these Prince Stars stuff, most of those have been forwarded or checked out by Veridon, or has been requested by them. But there is one record that they still have, and you look at it, and it is basically like a little journal entry of some scribe who, like, during the war was going around and like recording people's like last moments, and there's a lot of people's near-death experiences where they went and then came back, and many of them named and described those knights and figures and the tower, all of that stuff. And they had several different names, like Shade Knights, Death Knights, Keepers of the Veil, a lot of different names for these things. But everything that kind of keeps coming back is that, like, it's unstoppable, whatever they are.
Mortimer, just real quick,
Yes.
how long has Veridon been holding on to just all of these books?
It seems for quite some time. If I were to
Perhaps
guess,
2 years?
3.
Yeah. Fuck that bitch. Alright.
You see Mortimer's eyes kind of go a little bit wide, and he looks off. Is there anything I can help you with? And I guess you get the information on Sicaria, and the information you get on them is, it's in the footnotes of another scribe who was following around a couple of heroes, and the name was mentioned a couple of times, and it seems to have been referencing them as if they're one of the heroes, but not really. Like, they don't have the same, like, values or ethics or, like, goal as the rest of the heroes, but they were there, and they seem to have been studying under a lot of the different heroes. You can call them a multi-class, if you will. And but then the referencing sort of stops. You can assume that that is the assassin that was hired to take out Emmerich. But it seems as if they just sort of are stopped being mentioned at the sort of middle point of the war, right around the time where Emmerich died. Is there any other information that you were looking up for that?
No.
Okay. Vetra, anything for you? Or is it just basically to rest or practice?
I think just training until resting.
Cool. Then we will jump over to Dull and Theophania. And I imagine there's a very quiet carriage ride through the city. And you eventually end up at this, in a very wealthy side of the city, which is a bunch of estates and manors lined up. And you reach this gate to one of the estates, and I would just say, like, maybe on the front of the gate it says like Glycinian or something like that estate, but the atmosphere around this estate is very foreboding. The trees don't seem to be as kept. The grass is way too long. The windows almost seem to be leaning forward towards the road that is leading up past the gates, and a little crack of lightning sort of comes out from behind the house, very spooky. And as you exit the carriage, you see someone be like, I wouldn't go in that house if I were you.
Thank you for the advice. And
That
I
house
start-
has been haunted for a long, long time. Some say the pit of hell's opened up inside of that house. Night you can hear the screams. No one goes in, never comes out.
Oh,
I seen bats come out the window.
oh, bats. Wow.
I saw a 3-headed woman coming out the chimney once.
3 heads.
3 heads.
How'd
That's
she
right.
fit in the chimney?
I don't know. She must be a ghost. Ooh, demons. Something like that. It's a house of horrors, what people say around here. Those 2
Right.
mansions on the side, people moved out.
Oh,
Run with the screen. You can
terrible.
see that there's lights on in those mansions. People have not moved out. They moved far away. They couldn't stand the screams of the damned from inside.
I see.
Yeah, I kind of talk to screams of the damned pretty often, so that's not.
You can't go in there. It's bad. Even if you
Sir,
talk to them, they'll be talking devil speech to you, confusing you.
I do that too.
Dull looks
Well,
past Theo and then back at the man and goes, who are you talking to?
Give me a deception or a persuasion.
You have,
Okay.
You have advantage.
You have inspiration as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
Please succeed.
It is
I mean, you already have
absolutely ridiculous. It's a 27.
Yes.
Woo! You coming out? I told you I never work here again. And he runs off, running through the streets. And you see a little ting ting key drops behind him. That was probably the caretaker of the grounds here. And they run off like an old man screaming into the night.
Yeah, Dull picks up the key and offers it over to Theo.
Theo takes it. Doesn't make eye contact with you, just stares over your shoulder.
This must be your dream home. Honestly, we should change some of the Southmaw to look like this, make you feel more hospitable.
That might be the nicest thing that you've said to me in a long time, Dole.
Mm.
When did you get so thoughtful?
When I built that cemetery for you. Took me 3 weeks zoning it out with the city. They thought it would be too dreary. And then he starts moving towards the gate.
The gate is locked, and I'm sure Theo opens the gate. Bats fly out from it. You hear something howling in the nearby. And as you start to walk up the path to the front door, you reach it. And as you open the front door and like creak the door open, it's very, very loud creak. You can hear the reverberating in the house inside, and just millions of cobwebs everywhere, and just like almost you feel as if perhaps there is a tinted glass in here because everything has a strange blue aura in here. And I would like each of you to give me a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, God.
I have a 16.
The nice 5.
Oh no.
Brutal.
I'm so
would
mad
you
that I
like to-
missed whatever booby trap this is.
Would you like to use your inspiration?
Oh shit, yes, I fucking would. That's a 9.
It's a little better.
A little better.
The DC was 10. So
I'm sorry, I lied. Like it actually, like, oh, look at that.
Oh, it's a 20 now. Is there any way Dull can reach out to help? Very begrudgingly.
Can I refuse that help?
Oh, never mind then.
Okay, all right.
I hope you trip.
I was gonna say with that help, he just give you 1 point up, but if you refuse to help,
Oh.
I think that's fine. I mean, do you want to take that help to get a +1 to
It
this?
is so much funnier if I don't.
Okay, so I'll say you hear a something crack, and maybe Dole, you go to, like, I don't know, grab her arm or something. And I guess Theo, you push yourself away.
Yeah, I push him away. I step back.
And then boom, this whole piano falls down, and it was a very old piano, so thankfully it was not as heavy as it looks, and you just kind of go right through it. It seems like there might be a termite problem because you went right through it, but you did take 16 damage.
Cool.
As it boom lands onto the floor, cracks some of the floorboards, and then silence.
You must have missed my hand. And he sort of stands there. He's sort of spinned out of the way like a ballroom dancer and still has his wrist outstretched to her that had been denied.
Theo is covered in like white dust and just all sorts of like dirt from where this piano fell through. Yeah, that's it, Dull. That's exactly what happened.
Hmm.
I'm terribly sorry. Slippery fingers and all that. And you see a ghost come around the corner. A blue, translucent figure sort of floats around the corner in a very fancy, well-kept, sort of like vest uniform. And they're like, I'm terribly sorry. Sometimes my hands don't exactly keep the grip like I want them to.
Right.
And you are?
I'm Dull Ozon. This is...
I'm Theo.
There you are.
Nice to meet you, Theo and Ozon. I
Just-
am Cyrano-Glycinian. I died here.
Is the living senator anywhere to be seen in here?
My nephew? No.
What a shame.
He has not visited in quite some time. I don't think he likes me being here. And he sort of like starts to drift away after he's said that. Just sort of floating away. Is there anything I can help you with? I can't really send him a message, unfortunately, in my current state.
Well, there's plenty you can help us with, absolutely. Are you the only one in the house?
I do have a few friends that visit me from time to time.
I see.
I call them my boo buddies. You know,
I don't.
ghost humor.
Chilling. Thank you. Well, Theo, I believe that we may have connected a few dots on what's happening here. Unfinished business and all that. What do you think?
What is wrong with you? He looks at you, Theophinia.
There's nothing wrong with her.
I feel like that's a bit of a loaded question.
I'm sorry, I did not mean any offense. You are shadeless.
I'm blurry.
A bit, but in mortal terms, from what I can remember, you have no soul.
It's a matter of opinion.
I
Theo
believe I might have
shuts down.
overstepped. I apologize. I've just never seen it before.
That's comforting. It's good to know that a ghost whose dad has never seen someone without a soul before feel great.
Would you
Feels great.
like some tea? I can occasionally pick up things. And he sort of like floats off through a wall and eventually comes back, and he does have a tea set, and it's very rickety. And he like sets it down on a table, and he begins to pour something, but it's just like dust that comes out. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't think we have any. Cup? And he offers a cup to you on a saucer.
Theo will take it. And it's still rattling because her hands are shaking as she's holding it.
Listen, Serrano, was it?
Cyrano, yes.
Good. I think that you've been here a little long. I think your nephew is starting to see that you're a little long in tooth. Wouldn't you agree?
It's only been a few years. I remember the war was just in its second year. It's been about probably 10 years since then.
Right. The second year. What happened to you in the second year, sir?
I worked myself to death. I suppose that's why I'm still here.
Well,
Unfinished business and all that.
yes, I can relate to that feeling. What was your work?
I was a scribe. I took letters and sent them and recorded things, and all writing in parchments and inks and pens and all that. Do you want me to leave?
No, I don't want you to leave. I want you to go, if that makes sense. Don't you
Move
feel
on,
tired?
Yes. I am very tired.
Yeah. No one speaks that slow and isn't just a little tired.
But I have this feeling that I can't shake, that I must stay until my business is finished.
Well, if I can be honest with you, I have 6 days to put you at full peace and to make this a hospitable place for your nephew, so that he can give me something that will change the fate of the world. So if you could speed up whatever nap you have expected, it would help me so greatly, Serrano. Is there anything that myself and Theo can do to help put you at rest?
He brightens up and actually glows a little bit brighter, and he's like, "You mean you're willing to help me?" To
I
help
look
me
at Theo
finish
with
my
a look that
business?"
says, "Oh, good God, what did I agree to?"
What is it that you need? And please don't tell me it's you need us to track down somebody else and find 2 more things for them, and you're only going to give us half the information we need.
And it cannot take more than an evening. If we could knock this out in like an hour, that would be exceptional for us.
I guess if you're very talented, perhaps.
We are.
It's in that drawer there. And he points towards a writing desk.
Theo?
Yeah, Theo's going to go digging in that writing desk.
You find a piece of parchment with 3 things on it. You see that it says, throw a party and embarrass the rich. That's one. The second one is fight in a battle. And the third one is have my first kiss.
Oh, good. Oh, good God.
God.
I believe it was a little while before I passed. I felt like I hadn't really lived my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was always work.
Mm-hmm.
Work. Work.
Yeah.
Work and nothing but work, and I just started to write something, but I can't quite remember if that was everything, but it's the only thing I can think of to help me pass on. I never lived my life, and I'd like to live it so I can move on.
Of course. Of course.
So you will help me?
Sure. The last one. Which one of us do you like? And I gesture from me to Theo.
Gets a little rosier blue in his cheeks, like, oh, no,
Don't get
that,
choosy,
that
you're
one's
dead.
probably not important. There was this messenger that they were always so kind, and we liked ink and papers and parchment, things that most people don't really like, and if they're still around, maybe I can... I'm sure we probably don't need to do that one, I'm sure.
Do you have their address?
No, but I know where they deliver to.
Good. Okay. Keep that in your back pocket.
Is the person, just curious, the person that you're thinking of who likes ink and parchment and all of these things that other people don't like, are they named Mortimer?
I believe in... Yes, that does ring familiar, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Do
So
you happen to know them?
Probably a little too well.
Oh.
We're kind of, I think, actively making his life worse, but
Oh. He sort of floats back a little bit.
he could maybe use something good.
Okay.
you could definitely need a break.
Well,
That means we just need a rich person and a party.
and a battle.
And a battle.
Well, Dull and I are already kind of in a thing. So, like, what scale of battle are we talking about? Is interpersonal?
The battle. Oh.
Yes, I would very much like to... He sort of makes a motion like he's attacking someone. It would be nice for it to feel real, you know? I've
Sure.
always dreamed of some sort of big fight with a lot of people fighting each other.
We'll go get Vetra, and that's a battle in itself. Rich
I
person.
can also leave the estate at night if
Huh.
it is somewhere else in the city that you need to go.
Well, maybe we'll just take you back to the manor, and you can meet the Lion Guard, and Vetra can kick your ass for a couple minutes. That seems like a win-win. Rich person, Theo, I'm thinking maybe we put in a call to our favorite penny book author. What do you think?
I want a big party.
Okay.
Lots of rich.
Oh, it's going to be so
Preferably people I
big.
used to work for. They
So
were the ones
Dylan,
that
maybe?
convinced my life to work until I died. So I'd very much like it to be them if possible.
Oh, so you already have party guests.
I suppose.
So you're telling me you've had half the ingredients to solve your own bucket list, and you've done none of that?
Dull.
Sorry, it's just...
Dull.
It's very difficult. I forget sometimes, and when I get too far away, and I'm not... And he sort of gestures at you. I forget, and I return.
I
It's
understand.
very difficult.
Listen, get us a list of that, the names of your former coworkers,
Yes.
the
I can do
address of your Mortimer, which I suppose we can just bring him over ourselves. We're going to go have a discussion with the Lions Guard as to protocol for fighting a ghost, and I think we can knock all of this out tonight.
I don't want someone to just fight me. I'd like to be part of a battle.
Sure,
You know,
absolutely, whatever you
the
want.
The stories talk about riding up, fighting alongside, and vanquishing the enemy. All that.
Oh.
Like the storybooks.
Mhm.
Dull and I are both technically bards, so maybe if we put our heads together, we can come up with some kind of fucking poem.
What?
If you want to be remembered in
Like
stories
about you.
Oh,
About
I
you.
want to experience it.
You're going to. Then
You're
we're going to
going
write
to.
the poem.
I want to hold the sword.
You're
You can hold the
I
sword.
want to fight people. I don't
You
think you're
wi-
understanding. I want to be part of a battle.
No,
you need
we
to prepare an
understand.
actual
No, we-
battle where I fight and kill people.
It's going to happen.
We're on the same page here. It's
All right.
we're talking
much
around
of the,
each other.
Okay.
How real does the killing have to be?
Very real.
To
You have
you?
to convince me that it's real.
Okay, I can do
I
that.
think that we
So
can do
good
that.
luck with that.
Let's go back to the manor. Game plan with the other two.
You can return tomorrow if you like, tomorrow evening.
There is no tomorrow. I don't think you understand that their life
think
is
there
ending
is
as we know it.
tomorrow.
We are all going to be like your ass in a couple of days.
And as fun as that sounds, I don't think everybody is as interested in that as I am. So if we can get the show on the road, literally.
Sure.
Party at the manor.
And I think we'll probably cut back to you all arriving back at the manor. And what does this all look like? What are you all doing? This is what's the plan?
I think I call us into that big stained glass domed out meeting area that is the center of it's reserved. It's like our war room, I would say. And I think we're all gathered in a circle around this depressing little ghost in the center. Me and Theo went down to the second estate to find out what's going on with the senator's issue, and I would like to introduce you all to the issue, and I gesture to the ghost.
Hello,
This is
Sorry,
Serrano.
what?
Do we have time for that?
I'm a ghost.
This is maybe the easiest position we have ever been given as heroes in our entire life. It's just debilitatingly easy to do. I cannot see any downside outside of having to speak to this person.
That's
The
very
only
rude.
things that
I'm
we need
right
to
here.
do, we need to throw him a party. He needs to see some blood, fight some people,
Fighting a
And-
battle that's real.
and then he needs to have his first kiss.
First kiss, and he does want to neg some rich people, I believe.
Oh yeah, it's something about eating the rich, nugging the rich, something.
He
something
wants
about
to
the rich.
bully his old coworkers.
They are
That's
the
it.
ones that convinced me to work myself to death and not live my life, so I thought it might be fun to at least embarrass a couple of them.
Sure. Yes.
I think that's worth someone wasting their entire life.
We can invite them over and insult their appendages. We'll make it happen. Dull is going to get like two of the most trusted lion guard that he can, and he's going to instruct them to dress in their formals, basically. Their dress formals, things we bring out for like ceremonies or the trials or anything like that. I'm going to pack them onto the nicest carriage we have. I'm going to have Winnie zap this up so it looks as fucking decadent as possible before we leave. Whatever weird magic we can get going there. And I'm going to door-to-door salesman pick myself up, drive this carriage to each of these houses, wake up these nobles, and drag them kicking and screaming into the carriages the best that I can with, silver tongue. And I think I take some money out of the treasury too, just in case I need to grease some palms. And I'm going to stop at every single house. There's going to be like a troubadour. I make one of the lion guards like play trumpets outside of their homes, and we lay down a carpet for them on the entry and everything. I'm taking out every stop that we have to get these people to fucking come party with a ghost. I'm also going to say that this is for the estate of Serrano. We're divvying up his money, basically. That this is an emergency party to finally give away his trust as incentive for all to come. So I'm going to be using deception.
Let me pitch this to you. One of the things Dole wanted was to, put on a show, put on appearances, and Winnie is kind of like very quickly thinking about decorations, which is like maybe this is actually a waking nightmare that Winnie has had many times before. Essentially, this is going even a step beyond casting an illusion on someone. This is allowing someone to physically alter their appearance. If someone poked them or touched their body, that would be how their body is. And so in theory, Winnie would kind of like pull Dole into her office for a few minutes to help her cast this spell.
Okay.
Yeah, that totally 100% can do that.
I think the alter self becomes like a theming around the party, though. So maybe we buy out for the decorations, but this mass spell that is overtaking the manor becomes like Dull is going to spin it as an estate giving away, of course, but it is also a masquerade to celebrate Serrano's life. But the masquerade takes on a new life with the spell, meaning that all of the guests are invited to alter themselves however they have ever wanted to upon arriving, meaning that we are all sort of turning into completely different people to be a part of this masquerade.
Dole, which room are we using?
Well, I was thinking maybe the war room. I thought the painted glass dome was imposing enough. Unless you have a bright idea. You are the interior decorator.
No, I want to go use my stone chamber, but that's obviously, yeah, no. Okay,
It'd be hard to convince them that they're supposed to follow all of us into the basement to meet a ghost.
Okay, yeah, fair. It'd be easier for me to do what I have in mind, but yeah, you're right. It's scary in there if you're not like for specific
Yeah,
people.
Whitty, how many parties have you been to? If I could ask that politely.
And you know what? I'm going to politely decline to answer.
I see.
So,
that tells me everything I need to know.
I hate that. I will schedule it for. I do like the stained glass of the war room.
Good.
Okay.
And you're sure this spell is going to work on everyone?
Nope.
Beautiful.
I have shit to do. I'll see you in a bit.
One of these days we'll stop and we'll talk, as you're the only one that doesn't hate me. And that will be so nice to speak with someone who understands. And in the meantime, I have to go grab the troubadours. And he marches out of the ballroom after some trumpet men. I do want to specify that when I get to the senator, if the senator is invited, if he makes it onto the guest list of his ghostly uncle, I am going to tell the senator what we're doing. He's the only one that gets the truth. Everyone else I am violently lying to. Senator, it's good to finally meet you. I believe that you've worked with my higher-up who runs South Maw Manor. I am the leader of the sort of day-to-day operations for all of the Knights of Nemeria, and I need to tell you that I have 6 days in order to accomplish something that has been previously unprecedented in the world. And in order to do so, I needed to clear out your second mansion, which has been afflicted with some sort of curse, which I'm sure you already know. I skipped over helping you, and I've decided that you are going to come with me to South Maw Manor currently, right now, where we are throwing a party for your dead uncle, who is there, present, ready to speak with you, and you are going to give him the party of a lifetime. And if he decides to neg you, you will be negged. And if he decides that everyone in that party has to die in order for him to move on and for you to give me the raven that you keep in your home, then that is what's going to happen. Are we understood? It's also an honor to meet you, sir. I've heard such good things of your senatorship.
Mr. Ozon, you have insulted me.
I'm sure I have.
But I like what you're doing here.
Oh, thank God.
I very much need that second manor cleared out.
It's maybe on the cusp. He just needs to kiss our butler, and then we're in the clear.
That is a very strange request, but
It was his, not mine. You can discuss this with your own uncle. I'm sure that's how he was when he was alive.
If it clears the house, I'm happy to do it.
Perfect.
And we sort of do a montage of you doing that with everyone else, and people are like, "How dare you?" Well, okay. And all of that happens. Boom. We jump back. Then we jump over to Vetra. Vetra, what does this look like? You succeeding at yelling at people?
So I think like it is just Vetra shouting at people, saying basically, I have 6 days to blah, 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 like all of that doesn't make any sense to them. They don't care. They don't know this story, but I'm just shouting and shouting. And then I think it hard cuts to Vetra marching down the street with like an army behind her, heading back to the manor.
Is it mixed with like Lions Guards and Bards?
Yes,
or is it, okay.
100%.
You see, like, the guard, like, the lion's guards are, like, marching, and then you see, like, the actors next to them are, like, being kind of silly, and then they're, like, trying to mimic their walks. And they're like, oh, so that's how you do it. And he's like, yes, when you sit, you have to swing a little bit more carefully. And he's like, we don't want to hit anybody. Like, oh, right, of course. I practice all of it all the time. And
Just remember, it
Actors.
has to be believable.
and the soldier's looking at some of the bards, and he's like, oh, don't you worry. And the bard's like, I don't like that. And we'll describe, I guess, how you're getting this all set up, what this looks like when we get there.
Think of the way that a normal individual would enter the manor, the rooms they would go through, the atrium, a couple of grand hallways, and then finally this war room, which gets cleared out. The big table in the center is moved. The chairs are moved. So it becomes this large, beautiful, round room with a stained glass coming in through, or the domed top that is stained glass has this beautiful multicolored light. And it's actually a lovely kind of intimate room. First lights cast outside of the dome, so that multicolor stained glass light is coming in. So there's just like these beautiful like purple and red and blue hues, like mood lighting, and then some kind of streamers in the colors of the Knights of Nemeria, but also the colors of the estate that's apparently being liquidated. So it's kind of this mix. All of those candles, or not quite all of them, but a lot of the candles that Winnie thought Mortimer had melted down and returned to the pot, they get brought out. So the steps up as you walk through the manor, when you come down the entryway, is just lined by hundreds of candles, because Winnie has made thousands of candles over the last 2 years while she's been just going through her paces, building this chamber that she's been working on. And those candles that weren't given to the manor for normal use and that weren't given to Theo for her own purposes are now lining the walkway, and they're lining kind of the entrance. So it's this very beautiful kind of grand entrance lit with this warm flickering light. But then once we move into that actual war room, it's really difficult to describe it as the war room, because it's warm and beautiful and it's intimate, and it kind of flickers with that light that's cast from the stained glass. And maybe that stained glass is depictions of some of the early Knights of Nemeria successes. Maybe it's kind of those early moments of us in the tavern kind of clasping at each other, and it's our early moments of discovery with each other, and it's some of the successes that we had in maybe the early parts of the 2 years before things kind of totally went to shit. So in a way, it's this reminder of how things were at one point in time. And there's streamers and there's banners, and it's beautiful. And for Winnie, what she's drawing on is what festivals used to look like in that little town on the edge of nowhere that she loves so much.
And I think the camera first goes towards, where is the battle taking place? Vetra, is it just like in the training grounds? Is it
Yeah, I
somewhere
feel
in
like
the
it's
town?
definitely outside.
And I guess he'll probably come towards you, Vetra, and be like, so what? Oh, who are we fighting? What's happening? We're all just sort of standing around. Is they really are going to? Are we really supposed to? Do they really want to kill us? What's happening?
You said you wanted a battle, right?
Yes, I need inspiration. I need motivation.
No, you know who needs inspiration and motivation? And I point over his shoulder to all of the people standing, and I just say, your army.
Oh, okay.
You've dreamed of being in a battle like this before, right? That's what they said.
Yeah.
You've wanted this, so you've thought about it, right?
Yes.
What kind of things did you think about?
For honor freedom and
Mm.
something, some. So he goes over and he picks up the sword and is able to do it. And he breathes heavily, and then he goes out and he starts to give a speech seemingly inspired by your words, and is eventually sort of like walking around, and he's holding the sword awkwardly. He turns towards everyone, then he's like, "Ah!" And then the sides run at each other, and the battle is beautiful. Anyone can throw in any sort of things that they see happen throughout this battle, but
I would like to think that maybe some of us joined in. I definitely would join in across from Vetra with the little ninnies, the rich people, and the ghost there. And I think Dull takes so much joy in faking this stupid little battle with Vetra for a while. He lets Vetra kick his ass. He falls over. He does the big dramatic death and everything. It's just nice to play pretend for a little.
Cyrano's
I
like,
think
I
there's-
will avenge you!
There's probably a moment where Vetra gets like a little too into it, not because it's dull, but because like it's training,
Yeah.
you know? And definitely like slams into you a little too hard and is like, shit, sorry. for like, oh, are you okay?
I think there's like the briefest second where we look at each other and it's almost about to escalate, and then we both realize like, oh shit, we're in the wrong place for sure. But I definitely do the dramatic death for Serrano. I like grab the back of his neck. Avenge me, please. She's a devil.
I will not let them rest before Ah!
That's the richest woman in the state. Take her out.
That bitch! And he just runs off, and after a few minutes goes by, the battle has ended, and Serrano is victorious. And you feel him, he just looks bright and is happier than he has ever looked. He's like, that was very exciting. I really did like that. I feel my heart. I don't have one. I can feel it. I wonder what this might feel like in real life if I had a body. I can't believe I wasted my whole life never doing something like this. Thank you. This is wonderful. Really wonderful.
Not
What's
over
next?
yet.
So then we move to the party, and I would say the camera shot sees all of these guests walking through this candle-laden path that Winnie has set forward. There's various waiters giving chicken and dessert chicken to the various guests, and then non-chicken wine and other refreshments.
Right.
Most people aren't touching the dessert chicken, and they're led into this war room. It's a wonderful, very reminiscent of that country fair parties, and beautiful. Everything is wonderful, and I would say all of the guests are in there, but Cyrano is not, and neither have none of you have entered, or perhaps maybe Winnie and Theophania are already in there. But please, as you enter or as you're getting ready to go into the room, what is everyone wearing?
I do want to specify for Dull before I explain what he's in. I think he made like a promise to the district that they occupy a long time ago, that he was going to do things a little bit differently at the manor. So I do think after he was killed early on in the battle, he probably opened the gates to Southmaw and sort of let the lanterns on outside, which is this sort of utilitarian way of inviting the city itself. And he probably sent some of the line guard throughout the district just to alert everyone that if they were interested, they could come and view the VIPs and be a part of the festivities. But after that was done and after the invitation was extended, I think he went and changed out of these leathers he used to fight. And he picked out an outfit that he has prepared from the falcons that he's had for a long time. He hasn't worn it recently. In fact, in the 2 years that he's been going back and forth from the islands down to South Maw and then back, he has kept it with him on his travels, but has never really pulled it out. It is an old coronation suit that was given to him when he first became a Fang, and it was sewn by his mother. It is in shades of a deep green that is the color of the Ozon house. It is heavily robed, just cloak after cloak, layer after layer of this sweat material that sits over this formalized traditional male cut to the center of the suit itself, where it flares in at the collar and then falls into that familiar lapel. But those lapels fall out into the cloaks themselves and extend out into these sort of fur-lined, think like almost like Scandinavian or like old depictions of Saint Nicholas, where everything is ribbed in this well cared for fur that is indicative of the animals of the old folks. And he has this sort of almost like, think like Eastern European in nature, like Russian hat that is completely cylindrical in nature on top of his head, but is hugely ornate and is lined with little embroideries of these different sized fangs that are embroidered through this dash of silver that catches the light well enough. And he's put on sort of like an eyeshadow that completes the whole of his eye underneath the brow. That is almost like black pitch, like he's taken some ash from the inside of an oven or a campfire itself and sort of bled that through, and then rimmed out his eyes in this striking white chalk eyeliner that sits on top of the black ash. And I think he's at the door. He's escorting everyone down the candles and inviting everyone into the main room and just trying to play nice with the guests.
Question here. It seems like you're presenting yourself as Dol Ozon and not Ozyvander Kresh.
Today he is Dol Ozon. He is acting as the day-to-day manager of the manor. If anyone asks, he does inform them that Kresh was unavailable for this party at such short notice, that he is dealing with King K.o.N. and an important message through him, a mission that was given by the king itself, and Dol has been sent in his stead. And he only acts purely as messenger for Kresh.
Are you giving people your name?
I think that he gives Dol more than he does Ozon, because he does not want to alert anyone to that suspicion. But if pressed, he does mention that he is from the Folks.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so you see, as you have opened up all the gates to the community, we see a very short shot of like a few couples walking the street late at night after leaving like a fun dinner or a play, and they're just like arm in arm on the streets, and these wonderful little lanterns and lit streets, and they see a bunch of people gathering over there near the lights, and they're like, honey, do you think we should go over there? And just like a couple of people are gathering, and some people in the street, and you hear more people being like, hey, come this way, look, there's somebody over there. And we get a short shot of that, and then we go to another hero. And what is everyone, who's next?
Winnie is standing towards the back of the room. One of the utilitarian doors is to her back, one of the places where the staff would come and go with food, and Winnie has been overseeing the operations. It's very much this number two or this second-hand sort of situation she finds herself in, because throughout the 2 years she's gone to a couple of these horrible meetings with the heroes, with Dol, and taken notes on his behalf or Ozyvander's behalf when maybe things were a little bit too much, and she finds herself in that position again, and she just watches as people come in and out and watches their dress And Winnie certainly is out of place, wearing full plate.
Still wearing full plate. Amazing.
Because that's what she wears. It's what she feels comfortable in. She finds her eyes kind of scanning the room, and she's looking for someone. Does she see Vetra?
Yeah. Are you at the party?
Yes. Vetra, the only real like formal wear that Vetra would have would be from Tor Morgaine. So for the first time since the 2 years ago, she is wearing like the full furs, and she's even painted the T across her face. From when we first saw her, they'll just like blue T that stands for Tor Morgaine across her face, and she doesn't have her sword or shield on her anymore, and she doesn't really know what to do with her hands because they've been resting on the shield or the sword for so long that she's just kind of awkwardly doesn't know what to do with her hands. But she is here in full Tor Morgaine furs and leathers.
Seeing that even Vetra has gotten the memo that we're wearing festive gear, Winnie closes her eyes, takes a breath, and without changing physical clothes, once again using magic, this is just an illusion, her clothes change. They become rough spun cotton, a simple dress cinched at the waist that's embroidered with flowers and leaves, and at the edges of the dress it's embroidered in very simple patterns of flowers, and on her head is a very small crown that has some small candles burned down amidst flowers. But it's simple, and it's mostly rough spun cotton, and it's maybe the first time anyone here has seen her outside of her armor.
Vetra, give me a wisdom save.
Son of a bitch. Okay. That's a natural one. I came here to have a good time, and I'm honestly feeling so attacked right now.
I feel like you look, and honestly, for a while, even though you kind of see Winnie dressed in her normal outfit, you kind of feel like, hey, I kind of did something good. And then she sort of just poofs some magic and then just puts on this wonderful, beautiful dress with zero effort. And you hear in your ear, even at parties, she does it better than you. Huh.
That's vile. You should be ashamed of yourself, Adam.
I think since Winnie was like scanning the room as well, maybe sees Vetra like kind of push at the wound on her shoulder and turn around and leave the party.
And then we move towards Theophania.
Yeah, Theo doesn't really know how to be anybody but Theo, so she hasn't changed out of what she's wearing other than the fact that it's not covered in mud anymore. Like, she's clean. But that's kind of all that she does. She doesn't remember who she was before, so she doesn't really have any sort of touchstone other than how she normally looks. And she's trying to kind of go between Mortimer and the ghost senator and try and keep them from meeting. And so she is trying to keep Mortimer distracted by talking to him while using Mage Hand to, like, every time the ghost senator turns around and like almost catches a glimpse of Mortimer, the Mage Hand like pushes him out of the way or like grabs him and like pulls him somewhere else. So Theo is just very much trying to keep the two of them from meeting until the opportune moment. And the entire time Theo is panicking and just saying to herself, why am I the one doing this? Why am I the one doing this? I need Dol. I really, really, really need Dol.
And I would say, because you're talking to Mortimer, perhaps the conversation has steered towards, so is this the time that you'd like to tell me what has been bothering you? We seem
Oh,
to
Oh,
be-
buddy.
we
Oh,
seem to
buddy.
be
I totally
avoiding-
forgot.
Oh,
You told him
buddy.
you were ready for therapy.
You seem to be avoiding the topic, but it seems like you want to tell me something.
You know, Mortimer, I spent a lot of time with Dull, and it turns out a few things rubbed off on me. As it turns out, I was lying about wanting to talk about my feelings.
That's all
I
right.
don't want to talk about my feelings and how I'm feeling with those feelings. It's kind of awful. And I'm just here at a party. I am trying to keep from panicking. I
And-
don't need to think about other things that are going to make me panic or sad. And I just sometime I might feel like talking about how I'm feeling, Mortimer, but right now I just need to keep you and someone else from meeting. Don't think too hard about that. I didn't tell you anything. I didn't spoil anything. I haven't given away the secret. You just need to stay right here with me.
Mortimer looks very, very patient, as he always does, and he says, "Thank you for sharing your feelings."
You're welcome. I'm never gonna do it again.
As you wish. He smiles. And I would say the party is going on. I'm sure you guys have things planned on how to embarrass the rich folk, but Cyrano has not entered yet. And it has been a couple of minutes, and I would say, Winnie, you see him hiding behind one of the curtains, and sort of like looking behind it and looking worried at the room.
Begrudgingly, she'll make her way over and slip nearby, perhaps behind the curtain opposite. This isn't her strong suit, though. It probably ripples a bit too much, but she looks forward but addresses our ghost friend. What's stopping you?
So, sorry, I am silly, but I never thought I'd be here doing this. You spend your whole life working behind a table and wasting every day, and it's difficult to go out there. I'm already dead, but I'm embarrassed to say I'm afraid to go out there and to, I guess, be me, you know?
Yep. No, being you. Just all you gotta do is go out there and do exactly what you want to do.
Is that supposed to be convincing?
I guess it's not.
That was incredible.
Are you sure you wanted to talk to me and not? I guess you didn't want to. It's someone else. Fuck. You can do it. I believe in you.
Give me a persuasion with disadvantage.
Perfect.
This is great.
Winnie has negative modifiers in
Amazing.
this. Okay. Disadvantage, that is an 11.
I think I will just stay here a little bit longer.
Are you sure? Because it's been really long and people are probably about to leave.
I think I'm.
But you had a whole list of things you needed to do, and you think maybe you'd be ready to do the things on your list.
You'd think. It's things that you don't do things like me. Don't wait till the end of your life to do things you've always wanted to do or to tell people how you feel. It's terrifying.
Maybe stop being such a chicken shit coward and go do it then. You're giving me advice? Go take your own.
Give me an intimidate.
Good.
Try
I
every
love
flavor.
the flip, like the complete switch of like, well, fuck you then.
Is this a disadvantage?
No.
Excellent. 7.
I don't think I like you very much. And he just sort of he becomes completely translucent, but you can still you know that he's still there because it's the curtain's moving, but you cannot see him anymore.
Yeah, I know that checks out. You know what? I just I don't like me very much. So fair. And when he scans the room, looking for whoever's the closest out of the group.
I think Dull has since, escorted everyone into the room. He has made himself a table in the corner of the room and has cast out 4 glasses that are full alongside his own drink, and he's sort of just sitting at the table.
And Theo sees the kind of like peeking through the curtain, sees the panicked look in Winnie's eyes. That's not a normal look for Winnie. Theo recognizes a very similar feeling in herself, kind of has this moment of, wow, we're both really, really bad at this. And we'll just use Mage Hand to fucking drag the ghost over to Mortimer and just rip off that fucking band-aid.
Okay.
Oh, it's 10 pounds. Never mind. I'll pull on his lapel gently.
Sort of move the curtain, grab, and then you start to pull an invisible thing across the room. It bumps into other people. And then they become visible. And they're sort of like turning around like, what is going on? And then they are there with you. And with Mortimer.
Mortimer, the senator's name,
Cyrano.
Cyrano
Glycinian.
Cool.
Nailed it.
So close. I think the two of you knew each other once upon a time. Maybe now kiss. And Theo just backs up as quickly as she can.
Mortimer looks at Cyrano, who is frightened beyond all belief. He says, I do remember something. How do we know each other? And Cyrano's like,
Adam, as this is happening, can I flag down the troubadours from before? And I just start motioning for the violins as I start to see that this is coming together.
Okay. Yeah, he needs help.
Knights of Nemeria, everybody.
So Dull is providing some sort of help. Theo, is there anything you'd like to do to assist this?
I'm just gonna like physically push one like closer to the other. Just say, take it from me. And you said it yourself, Senator. You don't want to wait until you're dead to tell someone that you love them. So just take it from me. And the two of you are gonna have to take it from here.
That's a bit much. Give me a persuasion or something with advantage, because Dull is providing the mood.
This is a train wreck.
That is a nat 20.
Hey!
Plus
Right.
8, baby.
Oh!
I will say that you push them together, but they like bump into the table and some like papers fall off and like some ink and
Cute.
goes all over the ground. And Cyrano is like, oh dear, I'm so sorry. And Mortimer's, no, it is nothing. And they go down and picking up the papers. And Cyrano's like, Oh, yes, I really liked this parchment. Actually, it reminds me of... I used it back in the day to send letters, but only to a very specific person. And one was like, yes, I enjoy the parchment, but the one that I enjoy best is actually this one here. And he's like, oh, I haven't seen that one before. That's lovely, actually. I really thought that... Yes, and Morton was like, yes, I do remember you somewhat. Yes, did I delivered something to you? Is that something that you... And yes, actually, I haven't been there for quite some time, but it seems like we might be in the same situation. And they sort of just walk off together. And they're talking for a little while. But nothing happens. But they start talking, and then after a little while, they sort of part ways, and you see that Cyrano looks a lot more chipper. He's like, I think this is good. This is good. This is a good start. This is a good start. And he's sort of saying that to himself, and he goes up to Dole, and he's like, I'm not really quite sure like what to say. He just starts talking at you instead of like being. I'm not quite sure like what to say anymore. But maybe should we do the other thing?
Do you want to neg some rich people?
I don't know what that means.
Should I line
would
them
love
up and then you can just sort of hurl insults at them, or would you like to prank them? Is this a physical thing?
I honestly, up to you all. As long as they get embarrassed in whatever way embarrasses them, I'm good with. I don't necessarily need to be part of it.
Well, let me tell you this, Serrano. They are all here under the predication that they might get something from your dead estate.
Oh, they're
meaning,
not getting shit.
Exactly. There is a unique opportunity for you to give a rousing speech that ends in all of them getting fuck all.
I guess I could do that. Maybe let's do a little bit of embarrassing, and then I'll do that.
Okay. Well, let's do it then. I am going to look for any noble that is flirting with another human being or another person at this party. Is there anyone?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And then I said to them,
immediately I'm going to cast Minor Illusion, so that it looks as though in mid-conversation, this man who's very boisterously lying about his past begins to piss himself just down the side of his slacks, violently, so much so that it is like inhuman the amount of piss that is coming through his drawers.
Like, Senator, it seems like I think you're making a little bit of an oopsie there. And he's like, what? Whoa!
And Dol will stand up and go, wait, staff, we need immediately help that man. He seems to have pissed himself.
Oh no, this is the worst day of my life. Then he runs off.
I look at Serrano and just sort of, there you go. That's one off the docket.
He's like, this is good. I'm going to enjoy tonight. And anyone who has an idea, just throw it out there.
Winnie, with a very similar sense of humor, there is a set of nobles who are kind of like dancing to some of the music that's playing. And as every time the music kind of dims a little bit, so it's just a little bit softer, we hear a
Marie! It wasn't me. What do you mean, Marie?
And then they keep dancing, and then we hear another.
Hold it in. Oh! I told you not to eat that turkey for lunch. I eat what I damn want.
They gave us chicken 3 ways. What did you expect?
What did you expect? God. The worst last-minute party I've ever been to.
And Winnie is, of course, just using minor illusion left and right to make people look like they're farting themselves to death.
This is a gastrointestinal nightmare. And people are just laughing and pointing at each other. And they're just very embarrassed, especially all of the very pompous nobles. And then, what is next?
Theo will use Phantasmal Force. She's gonna look around the room, try and spot a couple, and cast Phantasmal Force on the woman so that she is tricked into believing in her mind's eye that she's watching her husband making out with another woman.
She's like, how dare you, Charles? What? I saw you with that woman. What woman? I was getting some more chicken. Oh, that's what you call all the young women, don't you, you sick bastard? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, I'm leaving you. And they're just like a screaming match, and everyone's like, oh, God. And everyone's just like chattering and gossiping, and that couple leaves because they're fighting too much. And then the last embarrassing thing, Vetra, please.
I think Mortimer would probably like catch on to what's going on, and like he wouldn't have been given like a direction or specific commands or anything, but I feel like he's kind of like, feeling himself today. He had a little like first date sort of thing, and it was pretty nice. So I think Mortimer just kind of like starts depanting people.
I think he just snaps his fingers and a bunch of people's pants go down. And
he's having the best time doing it too.
The best time to Mortimer is a little smirk at the side of his mouth. He goes, Yep. And pants dropping left and right. People are like freaking out. And
no one's ever gonna come to another party that we throw.
It was a depancing massacre. And you see Cyrano just joyous at all of this, and it looks like he's going to give a speech or something like that, but he stops and he just kind of looks at everyone, and he's just smiling ear to ear, and it seems like he doesn't seem the need to. And the party winds down. The few people that either cannot be embarrassed or are still arguing are still at the party. The party is dying down. People are slowly leaving. And you see Cyrano is happily eating / not eating because he is a ghost, but pretending to do it as the party is departing. You know that there's a couple of hours left till sunset. But him and Mortimer has not talked since that first meeting, and you all can see that there needs to be one last sort of yee-haw to help push them together somehow or facilitate something.
I think I'm gonna call Serrano over, and Dull is still sort of sitting at this table where he's lined out drinks for the main four. But there's also a cup for Serrano there, but he calls him over.
Yes. Hello.
Have you been enjoying yourself?
Yes, the round of depancies was very funny.
It was very inspiring. That was your boyfriend.
The fighting, and it was. This has been a wonderful night. I'll tell you that.
You're happy?
Yes, I am.
Serrano, this is gonna end soon. You know that, right?
Yes, it is.
I just wanted to ask you before I go make you make out with my butler. Is there anything that you want us to know before you go?
Don't wait. Don't. Live your life. Don't put work in everything before your joy, the people that mean something to you. Tell them how you feel. He looks across the room and he sees Mortimer. Don't let your life pass you by. End up a ghost like me.
It's going to be scary. And for a while after this, you'll probably be very confused. But what's going to happen to you is what's supposed to. You're going to get this chance, this kiss, and then you're going to take what will be the scariest journey you have ever taken in your life. But at the end of it is a long rest, Serrano. I just hope more than anything you take the opportunity to enjoy it just before it's gone.
Yeah. Whatever's afterwards, that's nothing scary. This right here, this is scary. But I think that's okay. And you see him walk by himself across the room, over to Mortimer, and you just see them talking. And half an hour goes by, and you see that there's a little balcony that's opened up in the war room where there's a little thing where they can sort of sit on the balcony, kind of like looking across, and you see just some of the vestiges of light starting to peek over the horizon, and they're both sitting on the balcony, and you just see their hands almost imperceptibly just moving closer together, and they touch, and they just look at each other. They smile, and you see the rays of the sun starting to peer through, and it looks as if that was just enough. And you see Cyrano grow brighter than he's ever grown before, and he looks back at all of you, very happy, smiling. And he starts to sparkle with the first morning light of the sun, and he just smiles at you before he slowly disappears into glitter. As the sun continues to rise, and you see Mortimer look down at his hand, and then look up towards the sun, impassive as ever.
I think that I just pick up the two glasses to the side of me and sort of extend them up to Winnie and to Theo. I do look for Vetra too, but I offer for them to sit with me.
Theo is, having watched Mortimer and the senator, Theo's kind of off to the side of the ballroom. I'll say at this point, like, the music has kind of died down a bit. Like, morning is coming. It's just kind of like the slower, like, sweeter music at this point. And Theo's just kind of like watching it and trying not to make eye contact with Dol and the other Knights of Nemeria. She's just kind of like swaying back and forth, like listening to the music, and she's smiling a little bit.
Winnie comes to sit next to Dole, I think in silence, and enjoy that drink, and probably watch the sunrise in silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say quite a few hours go by, and eventually you hear a knock and at the front door, and then Mortimer returns from the front door, and he's holding two items. You see a white raven figurine, and what looks to be in a little like case, there seems to be like a small looking eye, but it looks like the eye of a snake, but it's bigger. And it's just sort of like floating in this little cylinder. And he says, payment dropped off by Senator Glycinian.
Thank you, Mortimer. Thank you for everything you did tonight. You didn't have to put yourself out there like that, but we appreciate it. And the pantsing was inspired. Thank you. And I think that Dell takes the Eye of Enoch and the Raven, and realizing truly that his friends do not actually want to sit and have that drink together. He looks to Winnie and says, I think I'm going to take a walk and see about giving this eye over to M. we don't really have time to spare. And I think that he's going to go in search of the location that M is staying in Thanes.
When you say that, the figurine poofs into a real white raven, and it just sort of falls onto the table, and it just and it looks over at you, and it just like sort of like moves its head, and it starts to flap up in the air, and it's like, it's almost brunch, and it starts to fly away, but then it stops, and it's like waiting for you to follow it. It seems like the brunch meeting with Tom Servant is happening this morning.
Oh. Wow. I look at Winnie, and it's very clear that Dull is in need of sleep and at the end of his wits, but he says, I guess we're going to brunch. If someone wants to fetch Vetra.
Ain't that just the shit? Waffles with a shot of bullshit. I'll go get Vetra, and I'll make sure Theo knows too.
Sure.
Winnie would go to the training hall.
Okay, so I feel like Vetra's always in the training hall. Like, Vetra's always there. Winnie opens the door, and the training hall is completely empty.
Shit. That's no good. Fuck. And Winnie will cast Locate Object, focusing on Vetra's shield.
Okay, it's in her room.
And Winnie will go to Vetra's room.
I think the door is probably closed, but it's not locked. And upon opening the door, the shield and sword are leaned up on the other side of the wall, and for a moment, like, the room seems empty. And then the bed is empty, but in the corner of the room, Vetra is just sitting there. Kind of doesn't look like she's slept. Knees kind of just pulled up to her chest.
Hey. And Winnie kind of wraps her hands against the threshold of the door. It's me.
I think you see her, like, look and then immediately react to some sort of sound and look away.
Can you give me a wisdom save?
I'm sorry I'm bothering you. It's been a while since I've been in here, but we've got business to attend to this morning. It's important. We need you. I need you there.
Okay. And you hear the, like, exhaustion in the voice, and she stands up and walks over, grabs the sword and the shield, and the party looked good.
The soldiers looked good.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
wisdom save, Vetra.
Fuck. That's a 6.
The party looked better. And I would assume that we cut to you all walking through the city of Thanes following this white raven, you pass by in the center of the city, in the palatial district where there is the palace, the big basilica, and then moved in the center of it is that the big castle of Tom's, this white spiring castle that is very gothic, but it is all this white stone, almost like Minas Tirith, just like standing very opposing. But it's strange because you walk around and it's almost as if every side is the same side as you're walking around this castle, and there's these strange shops that have appeared around the castle, and people are like a bit you see people avoiding those shops for some reason, as if like they're not supposed to be there. We will come back to that point later, but as you pass that, you follow the raven, and it leads you up to this past where all of this is, to a different district of the city, and it's up on this aqueduct, and apparently it's a restaurant on top of an aqueduct. So it's like little fun little pools that you can sit in while you're eating. And as the raven brings you up into the restaurant, there is sort of a private room, and it flaps past the maitre d', and they're like, oh geez, and they like move out of the way, seemingly expecting this to happen and let you all pass. It goes into a room that is open, and the raven flies and then lands on a desk and turns back into the little figurine and clink, clink, clink onto the table. And as you enter into the room, you see a half-orc woman in the room, very familiar to Dull. You see your mother, Helene Ozan, slowly turn around and say, hello, son. I looked down where my note's supposed to be, and it's just 2 blank pages, and I was like,
Ghost
oh
kiss.
my god, but it's on my laptop, so I'm like, oh.
It's always the unspoken butt plugs you gotta worry about.
And Kerri, that will be the sticker at the end.
I only need to be done by like 10 a.m. tomorrow because I have another session.
I could do that, yeah.
All right, I don't know if we'll go that long.
Why, Adam? You're not ready?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not.
Wow.
And what about the dessert?
Chicken.
We just took all of Bisk's chickens. 'Cause I feel like that's gonna knock Dull down a couple fucking pegs.
Yeah. Okay, so
We love you.
I don't know why he needs to come down some pegs. He's speaking the truth, okay? Oh, you don't understand. This is the hottest thing in
It is
all of
7:30 at
things.
night, and you're coming to my home and inviting me to a party.
Are you telling me
And
you
it-
haven't
it-
heard
With threat of
King...
conscription. What is the matter with you?
You have not heard of King K.o.N's new trend?
Yeah.